Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Freshly Awoken podcast number 7. Wow, hold on. I've got echo. Can you guys hear me echoing? Oh no, it's fine. I had my stream up.
No, I
It's
can't.
all right. Sorry, technical difficulties. We're off to a flying start, guys.
Good start.
Pro stream.
Oh my gosh. G'day everyone in chat. How we doing? How we doing today? I'm Fresh Plays Live, joined obviously by my co-host Mr. Woke. How you doing, Woke?
Very good. How you going, Fresh?
Yeah, brilliant.
Nice. Very nice. So our topic today is media and technology. Where we're going to be delving down into some of the issues that our society faces with those kind of things. But let's intro our guests. So we got a couple of repeat offenders this week. Some people that loved it so much last week that they were like, let's get back on it again. So we've obviously got Fly here. Fly, do you want to? Sorry, Fly as. Yeah. Do you want
This is his three-peat as well. 3 times.
Oh, three-peat. Oh my
Three-peat.
god.
Hey, me too.
Round 3.
Oh, yeah.
Man, everybody loves it.
Dude, twin.
Fly, tell us a bit about yourself.
I'm literally incredibly boring. I
I
don't even
Stay tuned and listen for a couple of hours. Everybody.
I don't even stream. I've got no socials. I don't know. Just
Good.
every single week.
He's a good Minecraft boyfriend, apparently.
Oh
That's
yeah,
all.
I'm a great Minecraft boyfriend.
And he is the Minecraft boyfriend of Eagle Cat at the top. Cat, how you going? Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
What an intro. What an intro. This is how everyone finds out.
Hey, my name's Kat. Yeah, I stream sometimes. Not at the moment because I just got a job, so I'm
Oh,
working
man. Well
hard,
done.
or hardly working. You know, spending my time at work. Yeah, and that's all I do at the moment.
Sweet. That's cool. Another repeat offender, Mr. I know I pointed up, but sorry, on the podcast flies, obviously. In my Discord call, he's not. Actually, this way?
Other way.
This way?
Yeah, there you go.
Misterevets, tell us a little bit about yourself, mate.
Well, I've recently taken out the clarinet and grown a mustache, and my nose is about 4 times the size it was yesterday. Also, my skin has recently turned blue, so I'm just gonna do my best to hang in there.
You morphed into a squid.
Something like that. But I can play clarinet, so it's not all
Under
bad.
the ocean. Wish
That's
your
great.
best friend was SpongeBob.
No, not my best friend.
Ah.
Maybe my worst enemy.
Cheeky. And
Like, Zork hasn't
also,
got SpongeBob.
first timer tonight, it's Licky.
That's me. So my name's Nicole in real life. Not many people actually know that. I just get called Licky.
I didn't know that.
I am a semi-professional cake maker, cookie maker. I like sleeping, eating, gaming, and snacking.
Nice.
Oh my
And-
god,
and
I like
and
these.
I stream.
That is me to a
Those
T.
things.
Oh my god, we have
We
so
just
much
become best
fun.
friends.
I do that.
I feel like that almost describes every single person who's a streamer on Twitch.
Yeah, that's true.
That's pretty much my life.
Yeah.
Baking, streaming, snacking, sleeping.
Nice.
I don't
Fresh,
have a favorite.
Fresh was
Mm.
saying that you haven't streamed in a while.
I have not streamed in a while. It's probably been about a month, probably a month and a little bit last stream.
It's a good hiatus.
Yeah, but I think that this topic is perfect for me to come back on and have a chat about because it kind of revolves around the reason why I had such a long break.
Mm.
So, yeah, I'm excited to be here and to chat about it.
Yeah, looking forward to hearing
Yay.
about that.
Awesome.
Yes.
Well, before we get into our conversation,
On to the best part of the podcast.
our main topic. We've got to do the best part of our podcast, which is
Been waiting for this.
beer review.
Were we okay? I was a bit late. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I
sorry.
got excited about my beer. I was getting ready to open it.
It's all right. It's all right. One day,
day.
the people that are going to be famous for nailing that one
Yep.
day. So
One
it
day.
actually would pay. It would pay
Yeah.
to do it
It's
right.
one of those
Yeah.
things. It's like you do something and you're like, "Mum, look," and then you can't do it. You can't actually do it.
It's all right. One day we'll get it for
You're
sure.
right.
But yes, beer review. So yeah, I think
Mhm.
I'll just start. I'll just roll straight into it. Everybody introduce their drink. We've got once again a couple of non-drinkers, which is totally fine. Yeah. So my beer today is the Wayward Brewing Company Indian Pale Ale, and it's got a little bit of sales pitch down the bottom. Hoppy and well balanced
no.
West Coast IPA. So this is what it looks like. Hopefully you can, if I like shield
hey.
it, you can kind of see. It's got a nice little graphic on
It's
there,
quite nice,
like
quite
a
nice.
bit of adventure. It also says at the top, beer for the adventurous spirit, which you know,
Oh.
I am definitely adventurous. Don't know
Yeah.
what I mean by that.
See those glasses, and I know you're adventurous.
Yeah, so the Wayward Brewing Company, their whole range of beers, every single one has like a different graphic on it. And when I walked into the bottle, it immediately caught my eye. And I was like, man, I really want to give that a go. But it's just an IPA, a West Coast IPA. So nothing too crazy. But yeah, anyone want to put their hand up to go next?
Fly's pretty excited. Let's do him.
Oh, here we go.
So I was like at the pub probably like a week ago, maybe longer, and I found this brand for the first time. It was a Modus IPA and Modus Pangea IPA, and I probably had 15 schooners of that beer. It was fantastic. So I'm super excited. This is a Pangea IPA.
Oh,
I'm actually pumped.
very nice.
I've been waiting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Licky.
So I don't drink. So I have Kirk's lemonade.
Ooh.
It's
The
pretty
best kind of
fancy.
lemonade.
Here, look, can you see it
Yeah.
properly? I'm
Yes.
What a
doing
can.
work.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
It's because this screen is really bright, so I need to like shield the bottle from it.
No artificial colors or flavorings. And Woke told me there's a
What?
no sugar one, but
Mm.
this is the one I have tonight.
It's the sugar one.
Kirk's
You'll
is the
be
best
hyped up.
flavor anyway. You know, you don't want to
I
go that
agree.
Schweppes lemonade. Ugh.
Mm.
No.
Get out of here. Kat, what beverage are you bringing?
Tap water.
Oh,
Tap
water.
water.
The old
New
hydrogen to
Zealand
oxygen.
tap water.
The suburb of Auckland's tap water. I don't know where it comes from.
All right. Well, I'm interested to hear your tasting notes on that one.
Yeah.
And Yvette, have you got a beer?
I don't have a beer. I went to the store this morning. It's 9 o'clock here in the
Yeah,
morning,
yeah.
so
He's being
there were
responsible.
limited options. No, they only had crappy beers like domestics, so I decided not to get one. I'm just drinking coffee right now.
Nice.
That's good.
Coffee.
Can review that.
What beans? If you
Oh,
want to get a little bit fancy.
something that came ground and in a bag.
Ooh,
Instant
good.
coffee.
I think it's probably got
No.
caffeine in it.
Well, I mean, it's drip coffee.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Very cool.
I used a filter.
Wow.
I'm a little bit
use
classy.
Filter, man.
Classy.
Bloody
Oh.
coffee. Here we go.
Filter
Isn't
boy.
it bad for the environment using filters?
It's a nice
No,
filter.
they're okay.
Or is it reusable filter?
Like a
Yeah.
reusable one. Yeah. They're
Yeah.
okay.
Rolled out.
The pods are meant to be pretty bad because they're.
Heard it here first,
Yeah,
guys.
they're
Vets
really bad. We
Mm.
sell
Oh,
them in our
that's
store.
worse.
hates the trees.
You should just take
Ruining
them all
the
and throw them in the dumpster. Wait, no, that doesn't work.
I have to go
Uh,
around. I have to go around asking people if they want coffee. And be like, do you want to wait? Do you want to do this to the environment, please?
You know, they
Please.
actually make
Filter coffee
reusable
or having
pods too.
Are
So
you sure
maybe
you can't just
you
wake
could
yourself
just
up.
like, if
Every
you're
time you
feeling
drink a
really bad
coffee,
about
kills
it,
the puppy.
you can just take reusable pods in, and
Yeah.
then just like take regular coffee, and you can still make it single serving, but you can
Be
do
the
it that way
game
without
changer.
using a
Cheeky.
pod every time.
It's good.
Just a thought.
but- yeah, very cheeky, very environmentally friendly, and fresh. You got a beer?
Oh yeah. I actually I don't know if it's cheating to go with the one that you've had before, but I've gone with the Feral Biggie Juice. I walked past it today and I was like, I'm gonna go with that. This is like legit like one of my top 3 beers. So be prepared for a good review, guys. Be
Yeah.
prepared for a good review.
I had it like a couple of weeks ago.
Mm.
Yeah.
beer.
Yeah, definitely recommend it 100%. Awesome. Fresh. Do you
Commu-
wanna
Should we do the old communal crack?
Oh yeah, communication. Oh my
Yeah.
god. Can't believe it. Fresh. So Fly's been sitting there like, oh my
come
god.
on. All right, 3, 2, 1, go.
Crack.
Ah, yes.
Oh no. Oh my god.
So good.
I went all over my keyboard.
Yes, it wasn't me this time.
Oh no! Is it at least waterproof, the keyboard?
We'll find out by the end of the stream. Oh, because my
Gosh.
computer will just fry itself. Yeah, oh my god.
His keys were probably sticky anyway, so at least he's got...
Just leaving that one alone.
All right, moving on.
Yes, do you want to take us through a bit of the
All right.
topic?
Should you introduce the topic? I thought we'd start with a question. So, obviously the topic's media and technology. How is it like talking about it in society? We'll talk a little bit about maybe censorship, about how data is used, and a bit about how we can be safe online. So I thought I'd start with a question. We're obviously surrounded by media and tech these days, more so than any other time in history. Has this shaped our culture for the better? And how should we approach our own interactions with media? Anyone like to jump in? What do you reckon? All right, I'll throw it to Fly. Has this shaped our culture for the better,
Awesome.
Fly?
Thank you. I think, yeah, obviously it's an addiction. At some point, you've just got to realize that.
Woke.
Yeah,
Sorry. Stop. I need
Definitely
to
an
stop
addiction.
barking.
And I think we definitely consume too much of it, especially for younger adults, kids as well. I think they really don't understand self-control, and it can consume a lot of people's lives. It's like everything in moderation. It's just not great.
Yeah.
Good.
I think
no, you go.
I think we're all kind of in that age range too, where like we grew up with the like big boom of the internet and that kind of media. So it's interesting to see how this new generation is doing with it now that it's already there and it's all available.
Yeah.
Whereas like back in the day we had dial up and like you had to wait 5 minutes for a picture to load.
I remember that. I reckon also phones are a big addition because it's like a constant connection all the time, that's shaping culture too.
Yeah.
However, great things happen on the internet. Minecraft boyfriends and girlfriends.
Let it go, friend.
Never.
I think it's definitely important to touch on the benefits of technology and media as well. I think quite a lot of the notes that people have put up there have been about negative kind of things, and it was definitely interesting to see that Kat actually put up quite a few notes on the more positive side of technology and media. You know, the fact that people that aren't necessarily as comfortable with in real life social connections can't find it a lot easier to interact with people and meet friends and develop friendships and stuff like that, and a support community around them, which I definitely think is a positive thing. Have you guys had any experience around that yourselves? I know Twitch is huge on that.
I actually started streaming because in real life, I would not walk up to somebody and start a conversation. If I didn't know that person, I'm avoiding them. I'm awkward. And then I was like I'm hitting my 30s, snap out of it. Like it should not be so overwhelming and stuff. And then I realized like I have a tiny amount of friends that I'm comfortable with and stuff. And I thought, perfect way to meet people, find people that are interested in the same things I am, is to start streaming. And I think I've done a pretty good job. It's rolled over to like I'm a lot more comfortable in my normal life now, just to approach anybody or to have a conversation with anybody than I was before I started streaming.
So now here's a question that kind of goes in that vein. Have you guys noticed that, or I guess, online people have a personality and like a style that's not necessarily 100% accurate to what they are in real life? So do you find that now that you've spent time streaming and interacting with people in that way, you interact with people that way in real life?
Like we've changed
almost
our
like a performance?
Okay.
I say yikes way too many times in real life.
Yikes.
Yikes.
Yeah, right.
And I mean, this is everybody I'm asking, not just Licky. Like,
Yeah.
if anybody wants to weigh in on that.
Yeah.
I think that I definitely think so. And this is more going into, I guess, some of the negative things as well. That there's less of a barrier to my communication. I'm one of those people just in general that finds it like I don't filter my thoughts as well as I would like to. So when I'm online, that filter is even more removed from what I'm saying. And I feel like that's probably leading into my real life as well, where I'm becoming more and more someone that will just like say what I think, like straight away, without filtering it at all. Whereas I used to be that way, but now I feel like I'm more that way because of my online interactions where you feel more removed from the consequences of it.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't know,
cool.
I definitely feel like that's bleeding into my life.
I feel like that has some positive aspects to it too, though,
Mm.
because you like being able to speak your mind is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just
No,
like you were
no, no,
saying,
no.
like knowing when to and when to maybe
Mm.
put the filter on, that kind of stuff.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, it's more about the filter, less about not saying, because I was always that person that would like tell you what's up, you know. But
Right.
nowadays, sometimes I tell you what's up, and what's up is that I fucking hate you, you know.
Ooh.
So, which is not always a good thing, especially when the person is standing a meter in front of you, you know.
Mm.
Yeah, so I definitely think that it's bled in, and I'm sure that other people have found it. I don't think it manifests itself in like huge ways. I think sometimes it can be very slight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys find that at all, or have you guys
Yeah,
found that?
definitely. I definitely pick up mannerisms because I feel like you're definitely more genuine. And you pick up a lot of the same mannerisms. Like Kat was saying, she says, yeet and other things like that.
Yeah.
And
Woke loves saying yeet.
I
You
know.
don't
And
know
it's,
me. You haven't met me in real life.
that's true.
Oh gosh.
Minecraft is real life.
Wait.
Yeah, when you remove consequence and risk from a situation, you become more genuine. But it's like you said, it like removes it, like sort of distance you from any real consequences. Yeah,
Yeah.
that can really be negative.
Online interactions often remove the consequence and the risk from situations, which can be really bad, obviously, because you have like keyboard warriors going ham because there's no risk to them. No one's gonna jump and punch them. But so it can be real negative. But then also like a lot of people really struggle socially, like face to face, and that's kind of hopefully they're not hiding that by and like perpetuating it by just interacting online. But I still think that some people just feel really comfortable online, and Twitch is a really cool place for that to.
I was nervous when I started streaming because I'm a really blunt person. I say it as it is. I have an opinion, and it's okay if your opinion isn't the same as mine, and I will accept that, and I won't try to drill into you why my opinion's better, but I will say to you, like, I think you're wrong because of these reasons, or, you're a bitch, or, you're doing this and I'm doing this back. Like, I'm happy to call myself out, but it can come across as really aggressive, or like people are just caught off guard by like somebody that is so blunt and honest. So when I started streaming, I was like, they're not going to like me. I need to tone this shit down. But I found myself just not caring as much. I was like, well, they're either going to like me or they're not. And then when people were just like, it's fine, like, just be you. I think in my real life, I was just like, okay, like, it's okay to be me. These people online have accepted me and gone, it's fine. So then I was a little bit more confident in normal life.
I think that's something that quite a lot of streamers probably deal with, especially when they start streaming, is they kind of like they go into it and they think, but then they kind of like they don't want to give themselves over 100%, so they are a bit reserved.
Yeah.
And then they kind of get to, most people that I've seen have got to a point where they kind of like accept the fact that like, well, it's unsustainable for me to like pretend,
It's hard. It's
when
hard.
I'm sharing so much
I think
of my
mine
life
lasted
with you guys.
a week.
Yeah, exactly. And then and I think it actually is, and I think our society would be better with more people that are more honest about what's going on. And I think that online interaction, if it does anything, it makes you be a lot more honest to what you're feeling and what you're thinking.
Yeah, same. I agree.
Yeah,
Cool.
like the whole thing, like, so without internet and stuff like that. So in a town, so imagine living, in a town of, 5,000 people. Everyone's got similar opinions about the same subjects, that type thing. But now, if you live in a town of like 5,000, people can have different opinions about different things because they know about other people in the world, what their opinions are. That type thing. Like it's I don't know. It's just
There's heaps of things you can learn
insane.
about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Mhm.
insane how
Mm.
it's like it's that changed in such a huge way in like 10 years.
Yep. Yep.
How technology just changed like that instantly.
Mm.
Because I remember, because I don't, I'm only 20 now, so like I was like what
A youngin.
I was 10 when my neighbor got his first phone. He was like 11 or something, 12. He
Mm.
got his first, smartphone, so that's touch. And with Wi-Fi access, like actual Wi-Fi access.
Cool.
And it was like I'm like, wait, I was going crazy about the Nintendo for camera and filters on it at that stage. I was
Yeah.
like, wait, it's got Wi-Fi on it? I didn't know what it was. I was like going insane. And then he showed me all these like, like videos of like funny things, and I was like, what the hell? What? I was like freaking out.
I think
Yep.
that was probably similar to my first experience with the internet, or like with the greater thing of technology, where it's like it was just funny videos at first.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Totally.
the first time
Yeah.
that I remember
That was
because like
all
we
YouTube.
had the internet and we were kind of using it a little. But I
Mm.
remember we went on a family holiday over east, and we were at one of my dad. We visited one of my dad's old work colleagues' houses just for like he was catching up for a couple of years or something like that. And he was like, "Oh, this will entertain you guys." And he put us in this room. There was a TV with a hard drive connected to it or something, and it had like all these like funny videos on it. So it wasn't like online videos, but he downloaded the videos from online, and they were all just like hilarious. And I remember from that point on, I was very much like, where can I find more videos like that? I just had the best time. And yeah.
I remember the first time someone showed me YouTube was. Do you guys remember that How the World Will End video? Maybe you're too young, but that was the
End of
first
the
time I saw.
world.
Yeah, it was like Ends of the
Is that
World
what
or
you're talking
something, and it had like
Oh my
different
God.
countries and stuff.
It's a good
And it was like
video.
I remember being like, "Oh man, this is so funny." And I was like, "How do you get that?" And people were like, "Oh, this YouTube thing." I was like, "Oh wow, cool. I'm gonna go look that up." Yeah. So
Yeah, it's so
it's
crazy
funny.
to think about YouTube before the recommended videos too, or it would just pull you into a new one. Like you had
Yeah.
to search for every single thing,
Yeah.
and it was all just silly videos. There was nothing like well produced or anything necessarily. It was just a bunch of flash stuff.
Mm.
The
Yeah.
first
Simpler times.
Yeah, I remember the first video I watched on YouTube that someone sent me a link of it, and it was I don't remember the name of the guy, but he was singing that Maria he Maria ha
Oh
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
Oh my
Druggist
God.
Maria like that.
Yeah,
Did I nail that?
yeah,
And he was
Well
like,
done.
The Numa guy.
yeah, Numa
Numa,
Numa.
that's it.
Star,
Numa,
Star Wars
so-
Kid. Anybody seen Star
I
Wars
remember
Kid?
that too.
And
It's
I
like
just
man.
bigger guy with
Yeah.
broomstick, just
Yeah.
like pretending
Yes,
it's a double edged.
yes.
Apparently,
I-
that poor dude got like
Oh, so
bullied
good.
out of things in the real
Yeah, I
world.
remember.
People were like, "Oh, you're the
I
Star
never-
Wars guy."
Poor guy.
Poor
I
guy.
never found out that you can actually, like listen to music, especially like when the
Mm.
music all came out on YouTube.
Yeah,
Mm.
I
yeah,
was
that's
like,
true.
I
Yeah.
was so amazed at that because my dad was still, illegally
Oh,
burning
damn.
CDs
Your
for me.
dad.
Burning
Dad, uh-huh.
CDs.
If you work in the government, cover your ears.
That was, oh my God, yeah, for like my birthday and stuff. I got CDs, with
Mm.
all my favorite
He
songs
risked
on it.
his life for them to release
Yeah.
it.
That's so
And then,
funny.
Yeah, that
and my computer that I had in my room, so that I used for like solitaire and what's the other one? What's the mine?
Minesweeper.
Yeah, stuff like that. And then
Wait,
when my
Minesweeper?
dad, installed Wi-Fi or like internet on it, I was like, what? It's
Yeah.
crazy. I can actually like not play games. I can actually not play that what's it called? That ping pong game?
The
that you
pinball
play?
game.
Yes, I
Oh.
love
Space
that. I
pinball.
was so good at that.
Great
Yeah.
game. Great game.
3D space pinballs are awesome. That's good.
I think that
Yes.
we've come so far from those days in such a short amount of time
Yeah.
that
Mm.
Yeah.
I feel like having I believe that it's okay for us to cut ourselves a little bit of slack in terms of not being 100% across the board in terms of like all of the issues that we're talking about.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, as a human
Right.
race, the amount of time we've had to deal with and come to terms with the fact that our privacy is like like disappearing, that like we're interacting with humans in a different way. The fact that we haven't quite got there yet is like, I feel like we can cut ourselves a little bit slack, but it doesn't
Yeah.
mean that it's not a topic that we shouldn't be talking about and trying to come to terms with.
Definitely.
Right, for sure. That's an interesting point though. Like we keep talking about the speed of this, but like Kat, you were saying your neighbor got a smartphone with Wi-Fi access when you were about 10, 11, 12, something like that. I'm about 10 years older than you, but when I was 10, I remember when we got our first digital camera that you put floppy disks into.
Into a
Oh
camera.
my
It was like a
Wow.
1.2 megapixel camera.
Yeah.
And it
Wow.
was just the coolest thing in the world because you didn't have to have film anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even in just that 10 years, it went from this is a cool new digital camera thing, like what is this, to I have a smartphone that can take pictures and connect to the internet and
Yeah.
play games, and I just
Yeah.
have to touch the screen.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
speed at which it's gone up and up and up is just so
It's
crazy.
hectic. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And yeah,
s-
when you think about civilization only having been around like kind of as we know it for what 3,000-4,000 years,
Mm.
like 10 years to deal with all of that is not very much time.
Yeah. No, it's true for
No.
sure.
Yeah. I still remember when in kindergarten when they asked you to bring those those little black little capsules that you put
Oh
your
yeah,
film
the
in.
film thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then you just had them
Oh, yeah.
lying around everywhere.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
randomly.
My house.
Yep.
And they
My-
just
yeah.
ask you to bring them in because we don't use them anymore
Yeah,
now. It's
yeah.
like bring them in and we can make art with
Gosh.
it. Like
Kiddie
it's
guy.
just random ass. You just
That
have
was
them
like high
lying
school.
around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I definitely think in terms of enjoyment of life, technology has definitely been like a net positive. Like
Mm.
obviously we've got amazing quality pictures now that we can enjoy, film, music, gaming, and stuff like that. Like technology has boosted the enjoyment of life, like by like
Yeah.
tenfold or like 100-fold. I don't know
Mm.
the exact number, but like I enjoy my life with technology a lot more than I did when I had technology.
Mm. That's
So
true.
I live nowhere near any of my family, and I absolutely love that I finally taught my mum how to use a Facebook Messenger. So
Oh,
now I
nice.
can video call her, even though
Very
she'll still
tricky.
put it to her ear, or she's like, I'm just looking at her eye.
It must be an
I mean,
interesting
every
video.
now and then she gets a good shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that I can video call like friends and family and stuff like that. I can keep in touch with them like that. Like there's a lot of positives about that. I've had like job interviews and stuff that are over Skype, or doctor's appointments and
wow.
stuff that are through Skype. So
Yeah, those
things like
doctor's
that I
appointments.
find are really beneficial.
Yeah.
I think there is lots of positives, but I still sit on the fence because I know that there's a lot of negatives as well.
No,
Mm.
yeah, 100%.
I think
The whole
everything.
you go.
Oh,
Mm.
go ahead. No, go ahead, Wick.
The world is growing smaller thing. Obviously, chuck that in notes is a once again like a net positive. I think the idea of me being able to converse instantly with someone overseas, and not just converse, but like it's like a full interaction. We're
Yeah.
not obviously like maybe we'll get there the technology in the future of like actually being able to like hug people from overseas and stuff like that through like those body suits that they're doing now, where it like synapse suits or something that
Yeah.
like but we're not quite there yet. But just the idea of lessening the gap between people of the world, I think, is a great idea. It's only there's only positives that can come from that, I think. But yeah, I once again I'm on the fence in terms of technology as a whole.
I think I was gonna say like technology as a whole, any way you cut it, kind of it's a double-edged sword because there's the good part and then there's the bad part that comes with it too. So like with being able to connect with more people, it's really awesome if you live in a small town to be able to, especially like if you have maybe some different ideas from everybody in the small town, to be able to connect with other people who have different ideas. But the flip side of that is that people who have extreme and crazy ideas
Yeah.
are able to connect with other people who have extreme and crazy ideas, and the more people who have an idea, the less crazy it's. So
Yeah.
that's I don't I don't want to be a downer the whole time, but just one example of like, yes, I agree that it's a net positive. I definitely agree with that. The internet and technology and everything has made everything more enjoyable, but it also comes with that risk.
Do you guys feel like there's two types of people? There's people for change and against change, right? Do you feel like the people that are against change, that there's a certain generation especially, that is against the change, once they, I don't want to say this, but once they are gone in that way,
Yeah.
do you feel like we're gonna move a lot faster?
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had this conversation with several of my friends where it's like, so there's before computers and there's after computers,
yeah.
and yeah, like, let's get a new time period. Who needs AD and BC, right? Where I grew up every couple of years, something new was coming out, something
Yeah.
new that we had to learn, and even now, like technology comes out, and the way that I pick it up and the way I'm not afraid of picking up and trying new things. Whereas like compared to, like, for example, my dad, who's like, oh, this remote control has too many buttons on it for the TV. I don't know what to do. I'm too afraid to like try it. I mean, he's not like that exactly. Sorry, Dad, if you're listening. It's a terrible representation of him. But like he's hesitant, and it speaks to that generation as a whole. I think that, like, not that I want to generalize, but for the most part, they're hesitant with change. They're hesitant with new technologies and stuff like that. Whereas we, who have grown up every couple of years having something new thrown at us, like new technology all the time, you have to keep up, otherwise you're left behind.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they bring out next.
New stuff.
My
Yeah.
mum
no,
couldn't
100%.
give two shits, but I'm excited to see because
Yeah.
I can see the direction that it's going. Like, it's better. And my mum's like, I don't need anything special. But like Kat said, when they're gone, it will definitely
Hasten the
go forward.
process.
There'll be more people.
That
When
would
the
definitely.
new generations come, and they're gonna be, they are going to grow up with phones that we have now.
Mm.
So they're gonna,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think
grow up learning whole new electronics,
Yeah,
whole
but-
new everything, and
Yeah.
we're gonna be the ones with our, iPhone X10, whatever frick. We're gonna be like, oh, we don't need anything else. We don't need 3D
Well,
Skyping.
that's the thing. So, do you think I think it's become a your mindset becomes one that's more willing to change. Like what I said there, we've grown up with things constantly changing, so it's kind of.
Yeah.
I think, to generalize, the progressive kind of people are a lot younger than the conservative people, so it kind of like bleeds into our philosophy and politics stuff too as well.
Yeah.
So like
I
we're
think-
probably a little bit more willing to change.
I think to a certain extent, though, that's always been true, that the younger generations are always a little bit more progressive than the older ones.
Yeah.
Because like once you get into that certain age range, like everybody else in your age range, you guys are the ones in power. You get things set the way you want them, and so then the next generation comes through and they say, wait a minute, we want to change this and this and this. So I don't know that it's necessarily going to be a matter of other people getting out of the way, so to speak, or being gone. So much as it's just going to be the continuation of new generations pushing it further and further and further, which I'm excited to see.
Yeah.
Do you think it's because of technology though? Like, it's all very, like we say, like the newer generation is always like progressive. Do you think that's to do with our incline in technology, like slow? And obviously it's like in a bit of an exponential point at the moment where it's just like going crazy. But do you think it's that has something quite a lot to do with the fact, like, obviously you've got previous generations where it was like, oh, women got the pill, which is a technological advancement, and that set us on like a completely different trajectory where obviously everybody was more progressive and more willing to be like, oh, women have a place in society, and like that. Do you think it's because of technology that we are?
I think so. I think a lot of it has to do with the ability to spread information faster. So like when you think about things like the printing press, that made it so you didn't have to write every single copy of everything by hand, which meant you could make flyers and distribute them. So that was a big push. It wasn't as big as what we're seeing now, but now you can, like, the big thing in America is Trump tweets all the time. But we can all see that as soon as he does, which is just insane when you think about what would have happened even like 30 years ago. Like, you wouldn't have seen anything except on the TV, or maybe like heard something on the radio. And I mean, even TV and radio are another good example of things that spread information faster. Nothing quite like what we're seeing now.
We're definitely in, like, I think probably the biggest generational gap, probably mainly due to technology.
Sorry, generational gap. What do you mean by that?
Like
Sorry.
as in the people of the generation above are so out of touch with the people below. It's all, I think it's always been a gap, but I think it's the widest it's ever been now.
Yeah.
Probably
I
mainly
think,
just
yeah,
Because of the
that's
speed that we've developed in the last like 10
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah.
Yeah, but I've definitely thought that before as well, Kat, where I've like, am I going to get to an age? Am I going to hit some age where it's like the magical age where I'm sick of it and I'm just like, I don't want to get that new phone, you know, like, or like I don't want
Or are
to.
you gonna think back to like when you were younger and you're like, oh yeah, I was pretty excited about that new, thing coming out, the next thing coming out,
Yeah.
like, or are you just gonna, keep going with that?
I think I've hit the age where I've just started ignoring like the new things that are coming out because I'm like, what is it this week? Or
Yeah.
like sometimes I'll get excited about, if there's a new console and stuff coming out, I'm like, oh, what makes it better than the last one? But I'm like, well, it's not really that much better, so I'm not going to pay an extra $300.
Yeah.
But then I find myself like, meh, like I don't care about the new phone. I'm happy to have my phone because it does everything that I need and it's 3 or 4 years old. But then when I get a new one, I'm like, oh, this is so fancy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, check out everything it can do. So
I'm
until I've got it.
exactly the same, Licky. I think that I've got to a point where I'm not necessarily ignoring the technology that's coming out. Like I'm still aware of it.
It's just a lot.
But we got like oversaturated with just like new things. And I got to a point where I was like, okay, there's not enough variation in the technology that I need to focus on every minute aspect of it. So I'm going to look for and focus on the bigger changes in technology rather than being like, oh, the new phone every year that's like 10% faster than the last one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like it's not really keeping up with the technology that's different from, our upper generation and the lower generation. It's more about being overwhelmed by it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're too
I,
old.
I know because I work in a technology store, I see a lot of elder people coming in and actually buying new technology and they're fine with it. They're happy to buy it. It's just we need to help them set it up because they're so overwhelmed with everything. They're excited about it. They just don't know anything about it.
Yeah, right.
So they have
The
no
unknown.
idea. Yeah, so we have tech people that help them and stuff like that. It's not
Definitely.
not a problem, but it's just, and then they get really excited. Like me showing an older lady how Spotify works, and she was like, "I can make my own playlist." I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
And she got really excited about that. She got super excited about that. So it's more about the new technology overwhelming us once we get older. So a lot new buttons, a lot new ways of doing things.
Yeah.
So
I remember when I introduced my dad to Spotify as well, and he was just blown away. He was like, "Wait, I literally bought a CD like 2 weeks ago." Like,
I've never used Spotify, never downloaded Spotify.
damn.
Everybody talks about Spotify and I'm like, ooh,
How do you
YouTube
listen to music? Oh, YouTube music. Oh, yeah, it's just
I mean,
similar. It's similar.
thing.
Yeah. Definitely.
It's more just like the technological music side of things, and he was just blown away
Yeah.
by the amount of content there is.
YouTube.
And I think with the avalanche of tech that's coming and like constantly coming, I think you guys are right. Like it depends on what you're excited about. And now there's an opportunity to like pick and choose which things you want to be excited about. So you don't necessarily have to keep up with everything.
No.
And you don't have to ignore everything either, but just like the Spotify thing, like, or internet streaming of music in general, like the people who are coming into Cat's store, like those are people who had to sit next to a radio with a tape ready in the deck and like record it when the song came on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the only way to make a mixtape.
Bluetooth recording. Bluetooth.
You don't know.
each other
I used to sit there
videos.
with a cassette tape and then
Cassette
another
tapes.
cassette tape going, okay, and then record.
And then turning it around
Yeah,
Yeah,
rewind
on the
flipping
it.
second side.
Yep.
Dude.
Crazy.
Oh,
Get a pencil.
days.
Back onto your point of how I mean, we were all kind of talking about it, how we as the younger generation, we've grown up with technology and we've learned how to adapt to change and stuff a bit quicker. Do you think there's like a negative side effect to that? Do you think that like maybe the next generation is going to be so oversaturated with change or whatever that they're going to be too willing to like change? Is there like a limit to this where it becomes negative? because like I would say that where we're at is a positive compared to the last generation,
Can
who
you
are like
define too willing?
for example, like if something is good,
Yeah.
maybe they are like, well, I'm open to change, so I'm going to change even if it's good.
Hmm.
You know, for example, so like the previous generation, let's go with like, I don't want to like offend anybody, but like gay marriage, all right, and how the last generation, they grew up in like quite often Christian societies, and it had like a bit of a stigma towards like anti homosexual sentiments and stuff like that, and they were because they're not used to change and they're not willing to change as much, there was resistance to that change, even though it's a good thing for the people that are homosexual and for society as a whole, I would say. But if, for example, you were in a situation like we are now, where it's like, okay, we're in a good place, but we all agree that, and it's kind of like that slippery slope argument, where it's like, oh, I remember when the gay marriage thing was going on in Australia, people were like, oh, but the next step, if we say yes to this, then the next step is like pedophilia will become legalized.
Yeah, they think it's going to open the floodgates.
Yeah, which is a stupid argument.
No.
But is it a thing where like now it's like we're in a good point, or like we're in a good place with like pedophilia, but like when you become like more willing to accept and change, would you potentially move too quickly and go, actually, well, let's give these pedophiles a go?
I feel like
bad example, maybe, because like obviously everyone.
I feel like people are
But
just
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
open-minded
Yeah.
rather than, willing to change.
Okay,
But
it's more about open. Yeah, okay.
open-minded to change rather than straight away willing to drop everything and change.
Okay,
And
yeah,
being
that
so
makes
connected online, it almost feels like we have to reach a consensus of some sort, like we collectively, the people on the internet, in order to accept that. And I don't think pedophilia is ever going to be like that as a specific example. Might not have been the best choice, but
maybe
like anything like that, I think, or like bestiality was another thing that was compared to homosexuality when that was still a no-go. But I think that in order for something like that to be like for there to be a threat of that becoming like publicly accepted, the internet would have to collectively say, yeah, we're okay with this, and I just don't see that happening.
What do you think, Fly?
I think new generations have always pushed the envelope, obviously with what's okay and what's not. This isn't like something that's new. Us, pushing what's acceptable as far as like technology goes. And this goes back, human rights was the thing 50 years ago with homosexuality and race and stuff. New generations are always going to push the envelope. They're going to have more information. They're going to be moving faster. Everything's going to be progressing faster for them. So, 50 years from now, when you're 60 and you're less willing to change and less willing to learn new things, you're probably going to be acting the same way the older generation is going to be to the new generation as they push the envelope further and further and further and further, because that's how you progress as a species and evolve as a species.
That's true.
No, great points. Well, I think we've covered quite a lot of the positive side of technology, and I think we've definitely said, I think that we can all agree that technology, I mean, it's not going anywhere, and I don't think there's like some anti-technological revolution that's about to spring up out of nowhere. Maybe we should start delving into some of the more negative sides of, I guess, our society being involved in media and technology.
Can I run with something that Avets touched on a little bit before? So he talked about tweeting and like how there's this abundance of information available, and it started with things like the type press, and now you've got obviously like YouTube, and then even like podcasts are incredible because you can like drive to work whilst you learn and like listen to someone telling you things. So like that's amazing, but it also brings about, I think we have these huge divides a lot of the time in culture because media, especially social media, can be this like echoing, amplifying chamber of ideas where you just get this compounding people who just come in with the same ideas and keep going bang, bang, bang. And like you said, more and more of the same idea, you start to think that these ideas are acceptable, and some can get pretty extreme, but if enough people say it, then like it just keeps going on and on and on. So we're living in this huge divide as well, probably caused a lot by the media.
I think that especially there's I don't like the fact that this is I guess one negative thing is that there's different what's the word for it, echo chambers. There's different websites
Yeah.
that tailor themselves to different people.
Mm.
And that's why I'm like kind of, and I know you mentioned this, like against deplatforming and against like terms and conditions and rules that would remove people from websites. Because then what you get is you get websites that are like, hey, we're fine with you doing that here. So the people that want to do like maybe socially not appropriate stuff go to those websites, and you end up getting these two split communities that never interact with each other because they're on completely different websites.
Mm.
And I really don't like that, which is why I'm 100% like I think that you should always let everybody interact, as long as they don't break like the law. Which is, if they break the law, that's completely different. But like if they're just throwing out ideas, no matter how controversial much you go, that is disgusting that you think that way, I think they should be allowed to be on these websites and interact. Otherwise, they end up sectioning themselves off from society, and you never see them or hear from them, and it's divides us.
Yeah. I mean, I think last week I said I disagree that
Yeah.
it's similar. I don't know. I'm interested to hear like what do you think about deplatforming?
I have mixed feelings about that. Like deplatforming specifically, like that's I don't know what that's like in other countries right now, but in America that's a really hot button issue because there's so many like far right conservative people getting deplatformed on, Twitter and YouTube and Facebook, wherever. But I think it's useful to have like guidelines for what is and what is not okay, and obviously like the law can serve as a guideline, like regardless of what's on the website, the actual law in whatever country you're living in should cover most of that. But
Yes.
The problem I have with just like open game, like you can post anything, is with 4chan. 4chan is now a terrible, awful place. It didn't start out that way. It started out as basically a precursor to Reddit, and then it became terrible and awful because these people came out of the woodwork, and I think it was mostly trolls more than anything, but like posting really, really inappropriate things. Like I don't even want to talk about what they were because they were so inappropriate. So then they started banning these people, and then they would create new accounts, and then they would come back and troll some more. So now 4chan has become like a separate echo chamber, like you were talking about, because the creators of that made a new website called Something Awful, and they put it behind a paywall. So I think maybe
So are you trying
having
to
the
say
terms having the terms and conditions is like it's a nice way to get around that, so you can get people off the platform. But with the internet, people are just going to make new accounts anyway. So I wonder if maybe the answer to that is to push things behind a paywall a little bit more often, to make it a little bit harder for people who are only coming in for negative things to just keep doing that over and over. So I don't know. I kind of like went off on a tangent there.
Yeah. So it's almost like as if, so you're thinking about like, hey, like when you become 18, if you want to participate in the worldwide conversation on the internet, then you can set up an account for $5 a month, whatever it is,
or even
like
just
putting
like $10 once.
Yeah, okay, but like putting an account behind, like if you want to have an account, you can create as many accounts as you want, but it's going to cost you $10 every single time.
Yep.
So like if you get banned,
that's kind of what I'm saying.
Like you're gonna have to pay more money. That's actually not a bad idea.
Not a bad idea.
I've never heard anyone suggest that before. Yeah, I mean, I'll need to think about it more. But
going back on the whole trolling thing, the
Oh,
word trolling came from that 1 year or two that the internet first came out. So like everyone let out their inner
inner selves,
funny in that way, if it was bad or not, that type thing. But that's where the word trolling came from, isn't it? So like I don't know what the origin of the word troll is.
I think that you with trolling, it's it's a weird one because like it started, I think, because you can't tell what people's inflections are when you're reading a message online. You know, you can't, if you're interacting with someone and they're being sarcastic, you pick up that sarcasm and you go, that guy's being sarcastic, he's being funny, or he's not, he's being serious and he's like, oh, you're such a dickhead, you know, and he's being rude to me, you know. But online, when you're reading a message, you can't tell the difference. And so people, they would send messages and people would start getting offended, and then it was like, oh, they were actually just being funny, you know. But how do you, I think trolling is like it's a huge problem with our online interactions, that if we're going to get anywhere with like treating this as like a more serious like thing that we can use for our society, then that we need to combat. We need to find a way to like figure out how we can like get across if we're joking or not. Because if you're not joking and you say, for example, Nazis were great, then, and you're not trolling about that, then it could be people were like, okay, like, hey mate, you're a bad person. The thoughts that you think, I need to color everything you say from now on with the fact that you actually think that Nazis are good, you know, and now I know not to take you seriously very much when I hear your opinion. But if he's joking about it, but you can't tell that online, you know what I mean? So it's like kind of like the guy with the pug, you know, where he made the dog do the Hitler joke. Do the, like, every time I can't remember what he said. It was like Heil Hitler or whatever, and the dog would like put up his paw like that, doing the like Heil Hitler thing. And like, if that's a joke, it's kind of funny. I think it's kind of funny. But if he's actually a Nazi, you know, or if he actually believes that, like, I don't know what I'm saying now. Does anyone know what I mean?
Well, so the problem with all interactions, I guess, is that, and someone can go back on what he could go back completely on what he's saying. I was just trolling, you know. And so we're not able to ever tell exactly what someone's thinking. So you have to go through that process of reasoning out based on their past. I think it's Vets will probably know. Is it deductive reasoning or inductive reasoning? Where you have to work out what they like. You have to make educated guesses based on what their past content's got, and how they're delivering it. Inductive reasoning. There you go. So because we're never actually going to know what they say, so then you have to go through that. And if before this guy has been, I don't know, within saying all the media is controlled by the Jews, or like he's put forth some anti-Semitic views before, then you kind of think, oh, okay, there's probably some concern there.
Yeah. Well, that was what I was kind of getting at. What if there was a way to be like, I'm joking or I'm not joking before you did the post, you know, before he did the joke.
People have kind of started doing that with like a \s for sarcasm.
Yeah, right.
But even then, like, you have to make that as clear as you possibly can, which seems like a weird way to interact with people. But you were talking a little bit about the difference between interacting with people in person as opposed to online.
Yeah.
And I think the anonymity aspect of it is an interesting one, but also the ability to go back to those conversations, or go back to like 5 years ago on your Twitter, or go back and find a video of someone in a drama class on YouTube from like 10 years ago. So I think it's interesting that with technology going the way it has, and with so much interaction between people not face to face, almost all of it is recorded. So you can go back and check any of it. And it's so damning for some people sometimes, because they said one thing and maybe they were joking and it was actually just taken out of context. But I've got a video of this person saying, I like Nazis. Like, somebody can just clip that, what I just said, and then all of a sudden Evet's like Nazi. And it's interesting how it changes interactions, knowing that it's recorded and could go back to, or it could be gone back to. What were you gonna say, Kat?
I'm just going back to about Law's message. He said that over text you have to watch what you say a little bit more because people get offended easily. Going back to that, over text you can delete and delete and delete over and over before you send something to someone.
Yeah, you can edit
Mm.
yourself.
Mm.
When you talk to someone in person, you look at them, you look into their eyes, and you have that connection between someone. And your brain sometimes doesn't think straight away. So you say something, but you can't take that back. You can't edit that thing.
Mm.
So like that whole thing has another it's a whole nother thing where it's like people say something online and then they say, "Oh, I didn't mean it like that," because it could come across differently than it would in real life.
Mm.
Yeah, so that's another
I've
thing.
seen situations where there's been like actors and stuff like that have, 5-10 years ago, have written something online. Everybody laughed and thought it was hilarious, whether it was a gay joke or something like that. And people have laughed, thought it was hilarious. And, now that they're famous and, the internet has helped so many, I'm just taking gay as an example,
Yes, yeah, that's fine.
connect and, form their groups and stuff. They can bombard him now with all this negativity and look what you said and look what you did and this is impacting me now. Oh my gosh, and you're a horrible person. Even though over that 10 years they've changed their mind, they've regretted that, or they've already explained it. The fact that it's still out there, they can't take it back. And the fact that there's now these huge groups and they're just growing in masses, they can target that person now and bring it to the media. You'll see it on the news, even though it was 10 years ago that it was said. They make it relevant now, and as if that person is still the same person. Like, I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago on
No, definitely
Facebook
not.
memories. That comes
Definitely
up, and I'm like,
not.
what the shit? Why did I even write that? Or I'm
Yes.
embarrassed
No one follows
by
me
it.
on
But
Facebook.
that's what I mean. Like, they can destroy somebody's career now. So I sort of think about a lot more what I post or what I'm going to say, thinking like, is this going to be okay in a few years' time when I read this in my memories when it
I
pops
think
up?
I think as well though, it's their ability to react to it as well. Like if you were getting
Yeah.
lynched on Twitter because of something you said 10 years ago,
Yeah.
and you don't agree with that thing that you said 10 years ago, come out and
Yeah.
say that. Come out and
Say it now.
apologize. Come
Yeah,
out and distance yourself
Mhm.
from your thoughts. Because
Yeah.
like man, I'm sure there are things out there, or like I've said to people before that things that I regret, or things that I now have
Absolutely.
come to the realization of. That's the whole idea of human progress. That's the
Yeah.
whole idea of being able to progress in as a human race. If you don't give people a second chance,
Yeah.
then like
I said
we're
things
not
5
going
years
anywhere.
ago that I definitely do not agree with now, or I'm a lot more open-minded about it now because of the internet. I have more knowledge about it. I have more information, and I can make up my mind. And I'm not sitting behind a TV just
More
looking
educated.
looking at one person telling me, this is bad or this is good.
Mhm.
I get to make that opinion for myself.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that comes with like people bringing things up that have happened in past conversations or happened online previously, something else to consider now is deep fakes, like the videos where people are doing voiceovers and like they can make it look like somebody is saying something even though they're not. I'm curious to see where
Oh my
that goes
god,
too,
yes.
because
whole,
those are
like, the
getting
Trump thing?
really good.
Where,
Yeah.
where
I don't know about a
people
Trump one
pretend to be
specifically.
Trump.
Yeah.
They're getting scary good
Oh.
deepfakes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
honestly, yeah, it's crazy.
the one that I like
Oh wait, yeah.
comes to mind for
I've
me
seen some
is
of
the
these.
one that I think it was like Jordan Peele did a voiceover as Obama and said like a bunch of terrible things.
Wow.
And it looks like it's Obama. It sounds like it's Obama. It's
Man.
not. It's totally fake. But if you, especially if you're someone who's already predisposed to not
Yeah.
like the person
Yeah.
that they're deep
Yep.
faking, then you're not even necessarily going to question it.
Hmm.
That's
So-
pretty
You know
crazy.
what's what's actually scary is the thought process
Deepfakes.
behind. Yeah, well, I mean, deepfakes are terrifying. But the thought process behind this technology and this ability to do this is hitting the mainstream now. Like I'm seeing it in my Twitter
Yeah.
feed. Funny videos. I'm seeing comedy channels making videos with it. Where they've got like two people with deepfake faces on, like having a conversation with each other that's just like really offensive or something like that. And it's kind of funny, but like, what's scary is that quite often technology comes from like military spending. You quite a lot of the time, especially in the last, well, like maybe not right now, but like in the last like 30, 40 years, how long has this technology been around for the people that are on the like knife's edge of the cutting edge of technology? You know what I mean? And how do we tell if a video that I saw online 6 or 7 years ago wasn't a deep fake, like wasn't the early stages of deep fake technology? You know, that's
Yay,
what like wigs me
conspiracy.
out when conspiracies. I mean, not conspiracies because like I don't have any specific, but it's
No.
definitely crossed my mind before where I'm like, I saw it and I was like, oh my God, like that is Obama. When I see that and I hear that, I think that is Obama. So if this technology was around in someone nefarious's hands 5 years ago, how would I be able to tell that it wasn't Obama when I watched some dumb YouTube video and was like, oh, he said something bad, or oh, he said something really good, you know, like, oh man, it terrifies me.
I guess if it gives anybody any peace of mind, one of the nice things about the internet though is that there are people on both sides. There are people who have good intentions and people who have bad intentions. So if something like that comes up, usually someone on the internet will point it out and say, I don't know about this, but you got to catch it before it gets too much steam is the issue now, because everything takes off within a day or two, or even
100%.
hours.
Yeah.
So it's
and
just,
and you've got the fact that like, and not even if it just gets caught up and goes viral, but like, what if someone sees that who's not got their finger on the pulse of what's going on in technology these days, has never heard of deep fakes? Because I know there's probably people out there that have never heard of deep fakes. You know, when you go to like, I don't know, like I don't want to stereotype, but like the middle of Australia where they're not got everybody around them always feeding them information and always inputting technology to them and like talking about the latest trends and stuff like that, where it's like pretty chill, and they're not right there on the cutting edge, and that maybe they've never heard about deep fakes, and then someone somehow shows them some video of, I don't know, Obama saying death to the Jews, you know, like that could happen, you know, and then they go, this guy is the worst.
My mum would believe that. Well, not like just believe that, but she'd be like, "Oh, it was his voice. I seen it. I seen it.
His voice and his
him."
face as well,
Yeah.
and his face, and like,
Yeah.
like if we get to the point where we can't trust our senses, then like, man, we're fucked.
That's like the whole thing with the like fake deaths. Where it's
Fake
like,
deaths?
oh, this person died, and it's like, wait.
Yeah.
I think video become less credible as deepfake becomes more prominent,
accessible.
and better.
Yeah.
It's accessible as at the moment. I could probably download it in the next like hour if we're looking for it. It's insane. I think it's like, you know, ignoring Obama, even in like small cases, especially for like criminal cases. So with a little bit of substantial evidence and a video, a deepfake video, you could definitely convict someone. I think that's scary to think about.
Yeah.
And there's,
so, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt.
So I was just going to mention the same sentence. There's other things like pacemakers are becoming more wireless, and I think it was just last year where they had the first death over the internet because someone from a different country hacked someone's pacemaker and just stopped it. Yeah.
That's insane.
But things like that is like, you know, it becomes more accessible. Everything's wireless. Everything's, you know, you can connect to everything. Yeah.
I feel like if I had something in my heart like causing it to work, I wouldn't like trust it to like any like tech that could be like wirelessly.
Yeah, but you probably wouldn't feel like that. You'd just be like a control and you hand it to someone else. Someone knows
True.
what they're doing. That's
True.
a weapon.
I seen a pacemaker malfunction once. This poor old man he drove himself to the hospital and he's like, I have a pacemaker, it's playing up, and then he just went stiff and face planted the ground, and then he's like, I'm okay. And then I was just there like, holy shit. And they like rushed out and helped him. But like if somebody
Imagine if that had happened to the car,
too. Like, holy heck. It would be scary.
All right.
And then you touch flies on criminal stuff and like prosecution and whatnot. And I wondered if you guys might want to touch on facial recognition.
Sure.
Because that's
Does that
a thing.
line up with like the government accessing everything and shit like that?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're kind of wandering into that territory.
Yeah.
But like now there's a whole big immigration thing going on in the US right now. I don't know if you guys have heard about it. But one of the things that's an issue right now is that I believe it's Amazon developed some facial recognition software that's being used by our immigration officers right now, even though several of the other like Alphabet, like Google, and then Facebook, and like the other big tech companies have said this technology is not ready to use yet. Don't use it because it's not accurate.
Yeah.
It's already being used. So
Right.
people are being incorrectly identified
Yeah.
because we've got
Standard.
this technology that's supposed to identify people.
Yep.
So it's one of those interesting things. And then like technology bias, like with facial recognition, it works better for white people than it does for black people, or just people of color in general, because the people who designed it were white people for the most part.
Oh gosh, that makes sense.
So I mean, the bias that exists there is like it's a real potential threat.
Yeah, definitely. That's hectic.
Yeah, I think it's a potential threat if you're using it for something like important, you know, like for example, getting convictions. But if you're using
Right.
it to like unlock your phone, I don't think there's really a massive risk there.
Depends whose phone it is.
Yeah.
Well, and
Yeah,
like
I mean, yeah.
the thing with that now
Right.
is like an officer, if they pull you over, they can take, if you hand them your phone for whatever reason, or if they take it, confiscate it, they can unlock it by just holding it up to your face.
Mm.
So I mean, there's a net positive, I think, still, but I think that's one of those things where we're kind of on the
True.
border of we're not sure if it's necessarily going to be a good thing in the long run.
On the
I don't
border.
know.
No pun
This is the
intended.
skeptic in me coming out.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, the immigration problems in America seem a lot worse than just that. But
well, yeah, but anything that makes it worse is not something that I'm going to support.
yeah, definitely.
No, it's
Would you be
definitely
okay
true.
with it being used if it was completely functional though? So, you know, successful. Would you be okay with them using it? It's another moral.
I would have
dilemma.
to give that some thought.
If it's owned by Amazon, that always seems like there's a bit of conflict of interest.
Oh,
or something like that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
privatized.
As
that just always seems
as we're
like...
streaming on Twitch.
yeah.
Yeah, but like that, it's one of those things.
I love
it's
Amazon,
really
guys.
hard because all of our technology is like all of our, especially software technology that we use and our web and stuff. So much of it is privatized that it's terrifying. And I definitely chucked in my notes rather late, as Fresh pointed out. The whole like terms and conditions thing, and like what you're signing away with when you agree to use this technology, you know, and how nobody reads them.
Yeah.
No, like, or like there definitely are people that read, but very few people read them.
Do you read them, Yvette? Like all of them?
I do.
I'm the person that just agrees and has no idea what it says. I'm like, hurry up. I agree.
I mean, like,
It
huge
was
props
drilled in from
because
an
you should
early
read them.
age to read.
I never read them.
Everything before you sign it.
I mean, I read a
My-
contract,
my-
but
like a big
they
thing.
seem
My
different.
problem with it is that whenever I have read them, I always read through the entire thing. And I disagree with like 90% of what I just read.
And then you do it anyway.
But I really want to use this program, and I use it anyway. And so
I do that too.
that gets me to the point where
That's
I'm like,
funny.
oh, okay. Well, I mean, I'm going to disagree with
I'm
it
a life
anyway.
away.
Yeah, what's the point of me reading it? Because I know I'm going to disagree with it. So I might as well just fucking use the technology.
Yeah.
I just like
Because-
to know, because like with the face app thing that came up recently, I don't know if that was a thing in Australia, but like
Nice.
big thing on Facebook for like, I don't know, almost a month was face app, which would show you what you look like
Old and
younger or older
Yeah.
or
Ah,
whatever.
yeah. Yep.
And in the TOS, it said that by uploading an image of yourself, that image becomes the property of the company who created face app.
Forever.
Yeah.
So
I've seen
I mean,
that.
that's pretty standard.
Well, and it's a Russian company, so with the U.S. and Russia right
Not
now,
those
that's
Russians.
not ideal. But I think that kind of goes toward the metadata thing that Kat was kind of bringing up with the government being able to collect all of this information about it. So that's why I read TOS. But I also still just like click through sometimes if I disagree because I want to do the thing that I want to do. But it's good to know. It's good to know.
Yeah, that's true.
Talking about these things being private and having TOS though, isn't that so? When we're talking a little bit about people being deplatformed, because these are private corporations, and they have their own set of values and TOS. That's what allows them to deplatform people. The only way to stop that, I guess, in a free market would be for the government to legislate that you have to platform the ideas of every single person. So
I think
that would be the alternative, I guess.
I think that there would have to be some kind of public entity for that to happen instead of having everything be
Privatized,
privatized.
yeah.
I
Public
just don't see
social
that
media.
happening.
Yeah, no, me either.
Social media companies have gotten too big and have too much sway now.
Mhm.
And they're too useful for the government, honestly. They don't want to get rid of them.
I guess they always sway to the majority in a free market. They're always the biggest ones are gonna be trying to generate revenue by pleasing the masses.
Yeah, because they want the most people on their website.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't think that we've gotten to a point where it's like they've gone too far? Like Facebook and Twitter and stuff are too big to be like part of that market anymore? Really?
I think that Facebook and Twitter and Google and Amazon are kind of like the new oil companies. So
yeah.
like the reason that we have antitrust law in the United States is because of the big oil companies who had a monopoly, or actually really just the one that had a huge monopoly and was able to charge whatever they wanted, and then it became a cartel and they just did price fixing. And that, I mean, it's still continuing today, but we broke it up a little bit. We at least did something to slow them down a little bit so they couldn't just run rampant, and we still haven't really done that with any tech. But that's a conversation that's kind of happening right now, like whether or not we need to adjust our antitrust law to account for tech, because right now it doesn't really cover what they're doing. Like they're coloring inside the lines but just barely. So it's interesting to wonder and think, is it at the point where we have to do something because these companies are too big and they have too much control?
I guess there's precedent with most utilities and that are heavily government regulated. Well, they are here. I don't know about the US.
They are here too, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Not internet, but like gas, water, electric, that kind of stuff.
Do you think ISPs should be, because they're also, like, I could see a government ISP.
I mean, they kind of are here, although some of those regulations have been lifted in recent years. But like ISPs up until a couple of years ago were legally not allowed to sell their data, like their customers' data, and then that recently got lifted, so now they can. But there was regulation. It's just not as strong or specific as it is with utilities of other natures, I think. And I think part of that comes back to, like, earlier in the conversation we were talking about, we're kind of dealing with this in the past 10 internet, maybe 20 years, where like people have actually been using it like en masse. So I think it's just a matter of catching up with it.
Yeah,
because it's kind of gotten away from us.
I know that ISPs, it was like a thing where it was like they used to, because they always collected metadata, like they always had all the metadata on us and stuff like that. I don't know, uses of their system and whatever. But then it used to be that like the policemen had to go to the courts, especially in Australia, to prove why they wanted why they thought that information would help them get a conviction or something like that, and prove why it was going to be a bad thing and why they thought that they should get their hands on it before, and the courts would be like, yes, that's okay, you can go and get the metadata. These days it's like the government, like in Australia, the government has laws in place to allow them to have access to that information, which is just, I think, a terrifying thing, because it becomes not necessarily a thought process of like, we're going to use this just for criminal cases or whatever, or if you're doing something wrong, maybe we'll get in touch or whatever. It becomes, we're going to use it for whatever purpose we want it, like we want, and what are those purposes? I don't think that the government has necessarily always our best interest at heart. And that's what terrifies me the most about that whole situation, is that like the fact that they've got all this information. The problem is that, and like, especially when the laws in Australia were passing, I have a couple of friends that like got their finger on the pulse of this kind of like privacy stuff, and I heard it from them. I didn't hear it from anyone else. Whenever I mentioned it to someone, they were always like, "Oh, I've not heard about that." Like, as much as we are in this situation, this age where we've got so much access to like free flowing and quick information, we don't. The information doesn't always get out, which is weird. That's a weird thought to me. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the most terrifying thing for me, especially when it comes to the government, is like I don't know if it's necessarily as true in Australia, but like in the U.S., we have a lot of people who have been in Congress for a long time,
Yeah.
and they're old, and they didn't
Yeah.
grow up with technology, and they don't have any idea what anybody's talking about. Like asking how Facebook makes money, that's what you brought Mike Zuckerberg, Mike,
Mm.
but that's what
Man,
you brought Mark
so bad.
Zuckerberg to Congress to ask him. How do you make money with Facebook?
That's
Yeah.
so
Like if you're
funny.
that out of touch,
Yeah, yeah,
how do you expect to have any kind of effective
totally.
anything from the government involvement whatsoever? So
That was
that's
hilarious.
what scares me the most is they just
We run
don't
ads,
know.
Senator. So good. Yes, totally. Which is also really funny because they were there to like work out if they were keeping so much personal information to then target ads, and then they didn't understand that they run ads to make money. Like I was like, what? How do you not? What are you even here for?
Yeah.
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 It's the same as TV channels they've been watching for 60 years.
Yeah. Yep.
So, and like I don't want to move away from this point because we all agree that like we've kind of touched on already the fact that like old people are old, you know, and they don't have their finger on the pulse. But with metadata, do you guys think we should be trying to get to a place where our metadata and the information that we give out should be protected or should be personalized, like it should be our private property? Or do you think it's totally fine where we're at, where it's like, yeah, it's the trade-off, you know? Or do you think that, do you think it's like, it's a trade-off of using this technology that we allow them to have all this information about us? Or
I
do you
wish
think we
it
should
was more
be...
private. But at the same time, I accept that it's not because I'm like, you know, I wanted that app or I signed up for this, but like I get random text messages and stuff from numbers. I have no idea how they got my number or my email and stuff like that. I haven't made contact with them, but because I've signed up for something else previously, I'm like, they've got it from somewhere else. I'll just block them or I'm like, whatever, like I'll just skip past it. I wish it wasn't like that. I wish it was kept more private. But I accept that it's not when I'm you know downloading the apps or I'm emailing certain stuff like that. I know that they're storing my information, and I'm like, what do you do?
Yeah, like at the end,
Yeah.
what do we have a say in these type of things? Like,
So
how many people does it take to, be like, stop this, And why would it be for that exactly if we're all already living with it?
Yeah.
Like in a perfect world, obviously we all want our privacy in a
Yeah.
perfect world, but that's not
So
going to happen.
that's why I'm an advocate for like legislating these kind of things. All right. So like when people talk about deplatforming and all that kind of stuff, I'm more for the idea that the government says, okay, online interactions have become such a commonplace thing in our society that we need to start treating them like they are just our society.
Yeah.
And legislating them like they are and creating laws around them and all that kind of stuff, so that you don't have, for example, Twitter or like the private company that is Twitter, being the ones that are responsible for policing our like political conversation. You know what I mean? Like it should be the government or it should be our elected officials that do that, definitely not some private company. So I'm all for legislation around this area because we've got to a point where it's like if you... Well, I've got a couple of mates that choose that they're like, no, like I am not okay with private companies having this information on me, and so they just don't participate because that's all you cannot do. When you read the terms and conditions, you go, I'm not comfortable with that, therefore I disagree, which means you don't get that technology. And which means that a couple of them, they only use very obscure communication things. And if I want to communicate with them, I either have to call them over the phone or I
Mhm.
have to be using that same very obscure, not very many people on it communication thing. And
Yeah.
I have one of my mates. I remember when WhatsApp first came out, and he was like, "You know what? Actually, WhatsApp is very like privacy focused, and their what's it called, like encrypted like messages and stuff like that." He was like, "You should get WhatsApp." And then WhatsApp got bought by, what was it, Facebook?
Yeah,
You know, and he
pretty
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
deactivated his account immediately. But he was super angry because
Yeah.
when they bought him, they
Super
also
funny.
bought all the information.
All the-
So he
Yeah.
already made an account, and they got that information.
Yeah.
Mm.
And he was super angry about that because he was, and that's what happens. Like, you can never, even though it's a private company that might be going like, "Hey, we value your privacy," they can just up and sell, and
Yeah.
then once they've sold, like Facebook all of a sudden owns
Their
all of your
morals
data.
are gone. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
and which is why I'm 100% there for legislating the internet, and
Yeah.
being like, this is a space that has become a part of the conversation. It's become a part of everyday interaction, and it's a guaranteed right of every citizen to be able to interact online in a certain way in certain places,
Yeah.
rather
Yeah.
than it being up to private companies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's a private company. It's hard to just, yoink it all because it's owned by someone. It's the same as any other
Mm.
business for a lot of people. And that's a really dangerous line to draw in the sand because as much as you feel like, it'll be good, it probably will be good. But again, that's just going to cross into a bunch of other fields, a bunch of different.
Mm.
Yeah, but I as much as, and I've thought through it. I've thought through the fact that, like, what, is this a precedent I want to set? But I think that the negatives of not setting that precedent when it comes to our online interactions and guaranteeing that, especially heading into the future and what I see as our future online, I think it's a terrifying thought. I think it's a terrifying thought that there's private corporations that are going to be like in control of the internet, which is where we're heading in a big way. I mean, we're already there.
Mm.
Well, and as far as a precedent being set by that, I think it's already kind of been. We were talking a little bit about utility, and that's one way that, like, there are these companies that set up this electric grid and they paid for it, and some of it was subsidized by the government in like certain areas and whatnot, but only after it was regulated. So
Yeah.
yes, it is somebody's company, and it's hard to just like yoink that from them. But at the same time, if we do start building legislation around this kind of stuff, that also opens the door for the government to become involved and try and make things better. And I don't necessarily know that they will succeed, but when it comes to things like utilities, they have. When it comes to things like roads and things like that, like, the government does do some good stuff and they do make some things better. There's just a lot of alternative ways that it could go that are not as pleasant.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, we all sound like communists, man. Central, centralized social media.
Take the means.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm interested, not to change the topic, but I'm interested in dedicating an entire year to
An entire year to
Fly's-
being what?
one of-
Sorry,
one
cut
of
out.
Fly's,
you lagged out there,
Fly's
buddy.
thoughts and notes. He wrote, and
Oh,
the only thing he wrote
an
was
entire year to bitch
dedicating
about
an
murder.
entire year to bitch about murder.
Yeah.
Do you want to delve into that a little bit for us?
I think
Just
it's
because
a fair
I've
enough point. I
been
think
missing your voice.
it jumps back to what you were saying about like political conversation, how it can be so skewed on media platforms that are very privatized, because he's got an absolute monopoly on media in Australia, and the way he influences elections is insane. And like, there's a severe lack of information that is like given to the Australian people, or a severe lack of, I don't know, it just feels insincere because it's realistically controlled by one person. And it's so, for example, going into the election between Labor and Liberals, take a punt at how many negative stories there were about Labor versus Liberals. Take a guess.
I have no idea.
It's 1 to 14. So there's
Oh, wow.
14 for every one story written that's negative, and this is in everything.
Wow.
For
That's
one
insane.
story that's written negatively about Labor, there's 14. I mean, other way around, about Liberals. There's 14 against Labor. And that's
Wow.
because you've got an entire media that is owned by one man, and even like the left networks here are just useless. It's like 7 p.m. Project's supposed to be like our
yeah, left.
the face of the left, and then I think I was watching like a piece with Shorten, who was what at the time was the Labour representative. Yeah, he was going for the prime minister seat, and he got on there, and they're that's like he's realistically the only way he's ever going to get information out to people properly. And he sits down with them, and he has to spend 5 minutes trying to defend the way he eats a sausage roll. Like
Standard.
It hurt.
Standard.
It really hurt me, and that was like honestly the entire segment. Yeah, like 2 days before you have to start voting, and I can just there's like no information.
And that's all the time we have for Bill Shorten. Thanks for explaining about sausage roll.
Yeah, it's like other things like being like right now our economy is the worst place it's ever been, but you're not going to hear about it.
Yeah. I was looking at that the other day. We have accumulated like 8 times the amount of, I don't know, this is very off topic, but we've accumulated like 8 times the amount of debt since the global financial crisis. And we're in very good economic conditions. I don't understand. And then I was talking to someone and they were like, well, if we had labor in, it'd be more debt. And I was like, well, I guess, but we'll never know that. Like,
how could it be more debt? How could it be any worse? That's like other things like Julia Gillard. You thought she was horrible, but at the time you wouldn't have known that Australia was the best economically run country in the planet.
Yeah, during
we
that
won
during
by
that
a long way.
deficit.
Every single financial outlet would label us as the best run country on the planet, but no one would hear about it. All you hear about is how the carbon tax is going to ruin the planet. But in reality,
I think that there is something to be said for the fact that economics is not right
Hold
now.
on, you can't. Economics is not.
Economics is not necessarily about what is going on right at this minute. There's definitely things that help right at this minute, but like quite often, like economics and like how the Australian economy is doing is as a product of what's been being done for the last like 5 or 6 years. And that's where we come into, and we've touched on this a bit across a couple of podcasts, how it's like the fact that we only have 3-year terms, when really you can't see the results of that in the results of what they're doing necessarily within 3 years.
That's true.
Yeah.
well, we've had a Liberal government for a while.
Yeah, that's true.
Row
As well.
So
We're just seeing that now, actually, in the U.S. Like our economy it's not necessarily on a downturn, but it's on the edge. It's teetering, especially with Trump talking to China the way he is about trade and all that stuff. But for the past 2 years or so, 2.5 years that he's been in office, we've been doing okay, but it's as a result of what was happening in the previous presidency. So it's interesting how that gets pulled into politics, because like the people who are in power get to claim responsibility for the things that are happening right now, but they're not necessarily the ones who are responsible for it, like what was saying.
Funny how it works. And then anything bad, they're like, yeah, but it was the last government's.
Yeah. But then you've got like the whole fact of like maybe when you really get down into the facts of it, that is what's happening. But that's not going to stop 50% of the people in the world saying, no, that's not what. I don't care if you've got the numbers. He's the devil. He's the worst. He's the reason for our problems. And it really bugs me that people dismiss facts, and there's not more really clearly laid out facts and how people manipulate the truth. Like can't we agree that that's a bad thing? I just don't understand. Even if you're like a person that is, oh my God, I'm liberal through and through, right? Surely you can understand when someone gives you pure facts that like, okay, I've been presented with these facts, therefore I need to consider that in my opinion. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. The idea of being so stubborn in your views, to me, is just like so foreign. I don't understand it. I don't understand why people would do it.
Confirmation bias is a real thing.
Yeah,
and
totally.
I think that people in our generation are becoming aware of it and becoming more resilient to it, and becoming more open and able to have conversations like this. But for like, especially for older people who are getting on the internet, getting on social media, seeing all this stuff, whether it's real or not, like they don't necessarily have the tools to figure out
and equip
whether it's real or not.
Like
we were talking about deepfake, and I don't remember who was saying like, if my mom saw that, she would just believe it.
Oh, Licky, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that's part of it because it fits into the framework that you've already set up for your belief system. And if you find out something in that framework is wrong, well, then the whole thing just comes. And that's what
Mm.
people are scared of. And I think that's why people are less open to this kind of conversation sometimes.
Yeah. Interesting.
Um,
I think we're gonna don't want to cut anyone off if anyone has anything to add, but I think we're gonna pause for a little bit of a break.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
We'll pick back up in right a minute. In
3
right a
minutes.
minute. In 3 minutes. There
3
you go.
minutes. Let's do it.
All
All
right,
right.
guys.
See you
Back in a
soon.
second.
All right.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. While we're on our short pee break, which everyone turned off their cameras for, which makes me think you're peeing right there. I was like, what are they doing?
I've
What?
got the
What are you
bathroom
talking about?
Right here.
I
Oh.
am
Only
right
because
now.
I seen Cat's camera, and I'm like, I'll just turn mine off.
Yeah, rightio.
I blame Cat.
Well, anyway, when everyone came back from switching off their cameras so they could pee right there on camera, I was asking Licky, she had an interesting scenario recently in terms of online safety and personal security, I guess you'd say. So obviously
Yeah,
Licky's a
definitely.
streamer, and so she's a bit more out there, I guess, than most people. But yeah, what was that experience, Licky? What happened there?
So I've been streaming for a fair while, and I've met all types, weird, wonderful, crazy, funny people.
Yeah.
And several of them I've sort of got to bond with. I've played games with, or they've become regulars, like in my stream and stuff like that. And I was friends with a guy that I'd met through Twitch, and we sort of started playing games. Like, he would come on to stream and we'd play games and stuff together. And everything was fine, everything was normal. And then a few things that he started saying to me sort of triggered me to just go, there's something a little off, like my womanly senses kicked in, and I was like, something's up with this guy. And it was just things like, you know, I'd say, oh, that's my personal opinion, and he'd say, you don't get to have an opinion because you don't know the facts on it. And I was like, all right. So I distanced myself from him, but he did not take it nicely at all. And that was actually 6 months ago.
Oh, wow.
I'd stopped communicating with him. I ended up blocking him because I found him popping up everywhere. So on my Facebook, in my streams and stuff like that, he would make other accounts.
Really?
And sort of it calmed down after 6 months, and then recently he popped back up, and I was trying to keep the peace and be like, it's fine, like I'm happy to play a game with you if there's other people in the party and stuff like that. And straight off the bat, he was just aggressive and at me, and he basically just said like that I had led him to believe that eventually I would want to be more than just friends with him. I said there's no way that I led him on in, and I was flicking through my mind thinking like, what did I do or what did I say for him to feel that way? And he gave me certain scenarios, and wrong, like I said to him, you know, I use the game sometimes to escape a shitty day. And he turned it around. He said, you only play the game, I'm playing the game with you. Oh, like he was like infusing himself into these situations. So I ended up, he's like, I'm sorry, I don't know where my head's at, please block me. And I was like, no worries. And I blocked, and I blocked him. So I blocked him from Xbox Live, and then he made another account and popped back up on Xbox Live.
Oh my
so
goodness.
I blocked it, and he made another one. So I actually reached out to Xbox Live, which is Microsoft.
Yeah.
And they actually talked me through the process of being able to block somebody that was harassing me. So I don't know if we've really touched on that subject tonight, as in, you know, how do you stop somebody from harassing you online when it just is full on? Microsoft were absolutely awesome with me. They actually blocked his console from contacting my console by using our usernames.
Oh,
so
cool.
they've taken his username. So it doesn't matter if he makes 1 million accounts now.
Yeah.
He cannot reach me through Xbox Live. So that was fun. That was great. But the next day he popped up in my Discord and he was blocked. And then he popped back up again, and my mods were straight onto it, which was great. And at this stage he was pissed because he wasn't
blocked.
making contact with me.
Oh, yeah.
Then
Can I
he
ask,
popped
how did
up-
you know that the different accounts were him? Was he like, did he tell you? They could
it was
tell?
his name, but like 1, 2, 3.
Oh my
his
goodness.
name.
That's so
That's it.
dumb.
Like
He
he's not
wasn't even
original.
trying to be
Or
someone else.
Gosh, yeah,
There
okay.
was
okay.
one time that he'd wrote something else, and then he's like, "Oh, you want to block me, bitch?" And I'm just like, "Well, I know who you are. I haven't blocked anybody else in the last 48 hours."
Gosh, man.
Um,
Okay,
and
yeah.
then he popped up on my Facebook, and I was like, "Fuck." So
yeah.
I ended up making the decision to remove Facebook completely. But in that time of me making that decision, he had contacted family and friends of mine to say,
Wow.
you know, I'm a compulsive liar, I'm a manipulator, I've made up stories about that. It was just over the top. So I started to get a little bit concerned there.
Mm.
And then once I'd done that, he ended up finding my email constantly. And then Microsoft again had walked me through the process to actually block his email address from, like, I guess he could send them, but they were never reaching me.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that was fine. But then he found my phone number, which I have no idea how he even found. No idea at all.
Wow.
It's a private number. So he found my phone number and
Wow.
actually sent me a screenshot of my location that he'd got off
What?
Snapchat.
That's hectic. That's actually scary.
I was like, hold up, like Snapchat, like how does that even have my location? So I didn't actually even realize that Snapchat has a little map that shows me where all of my friends and family are, exactly where they are, with a little like
Exactly what street, what house,
Wow.
exactly. Yeah.
yeah. So I was like, ugh, fuck. Like that's when I went on like full hiatus. I deleted Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter. I like deactivated everything. And what I found odd when I done this was they would ask me several times if I wanted to deactivate or delete. And I said, yeah, like delete or deactivate, whichever one. And then they would send me reminders that there's actually a 14-day cooldown period, that if I change my mind, I can go back and nothing will be lost.
Oh,
So
yeah, yeah.
constantly, I'd say every like 3 or 4 days, like, are you sure you want to delete it? Or, you know, you've got 5 days left before everything's gone.
The social media sites have serious attachment issues. I tried to delete something once, and they're like,
Yes.
"Are you sure?" You have to go through like 50. Are you like, I don't think you want to delete your MySpace, man. And I was like, I want to delete my damn
Instagram.
MySpace.
You have to go in like a weird settings page that
Yeah.
sends you to a completely different website to like deactivate it all. So I finally like wiped it all, and there was no, like, he hadn't made contact for 4 days, which was fantastic. But by this time, my anxiety levels were high. He had my address, he had my phone number, even though I'd like blocked him. And so I was just like, what is he going to do? He is pissed. Then he started sending messages to Chomp, which I think you know, Fresh.
Oh yeah, I know him. Yep.
Wait, what's Chomp?
He's another
So
dude.
Chomp is a gamer guy that I've known him for about 3 years. I
it's a
play
dude.
with him
Okay.
like a
Yeah,
lot.
fine. Yep.
So he started sending messages through to him to pass on. He sent messages to my friends and family, and at this stage, I was like, "How do I get rid of him?" Like,
Wow.
I was freaking out. And then I called the police and asked them what to do. And the first gentleman that I spoke with was, I hope I don't offend anybody, he was completely useless. Useless. Oh, well, you want to put yourself out there. You want to sit behind a camera. You want to talk to these people. And I'm like, yes, I did. And now I don't want to. And now you need to help. Well, you made the decision to do this.
Man, what a dumbass. That sucks.
Yeah, it was a rough
to the max.
It was a rough conversation because he's the law.
Wow.
And this guy's harassing the absolute shit out of me, and I want it to stop. And he's like, well, you did this to yourself, love.
Oh my goodness.
off.
That's actually so surprisingly bad.
Sorry. Excuse my language.
That was it. I think it was 12 o'clock at night, and I'm sitting there going, how do I get rid of this random ass person? I tried everything that I possibly could, and police are obviously my last resort. And when they're saying to you, well, it's your fault, love, like you opened yourself up for this. And I'm like, no, I didn't open myself up for harassment or to be lied about or to be yelled at or like terrorized. So I just thought well, there's nothing more that I can do. There's nothing more. And then I started Googling, like, is it illegal to harass somebody? Is it illegal, to constantly contact somebody or go above and beyond to
reach them.
To find
Yeah.
private information.
Yeah, like I don't know
Yeah.
how he got, my email or my phone number. He's found them some way, which, and then I remember that actually I have a friend that is a professor, and I asked him, and I said, the first guy was completely useless. Like, what are my options? He said, you need to go directly to the courthouse and speak to a chamber of magistrates. So I'd done that, and they were absolutely lovely. They said it's actually serious and it is illegal to harass somebody online or find any ways or means. Like I said to this guy, I've been in contact with the police, and he said, I want an apology for that. And then that was my last words. And I'm thinking, fuck off, like go away. Like that should be enough to be like, ugh, she's getting the police.
Yeah.
And it all ended up going through the courthouse, which was fantastic. So he's now not allowed to make any contact. As soon as he does, then he's in breach of it's like an AVO, but it's slightly different. But I also found out that the laws in New South Wales are totally different to the laws in Queensland, because he actually lives in Queensland. So that was my little like, oh, not going to catch a flight down here. Who would waste their money on that? But the laws are so different in Queensland than they are in New South Wales. So because he lives in Queensland, it's kind of okay that he does that, because there's no law to say that he can't. Whereas in New South Wales, it's a big no-no. So I took a lot of time off trying to, like, I don't know, cool this situation down and like figure out like, where did I go wrong? What did I do to put myself out there that much to constantly be terrorized for, I think it was 2.5 weeks straight. It was a lot. Like the things that were said, constantly finding me. But what triggered me was the Snapchat of my location.
No.
And
100%.
that made me go, what
That's
other apps
scary
have I
as.
got on my phone that
Yeah.
show my location or my email or my phone number or just anything? So now I literally have like no apps. Like I just come back to Snapchat because I figured out how to turn off my location and stuff.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
But yeah, the process I had to go through was just ridiculous. And I don't think any teenagers or even young adults would know how to block somebody or deactivate somebody, or who to even reach out to or contact and say, this is happening.
Yeah.
How can I make this person stop?
Yep.
So I'm glad that, like, I was freaked out, and I'm in my 30s. I was freaked the fuck out real bad. And other people were saying to me, like, this is serious. This is really serious. You need to call the police or call somebody. When the first guy didn't help me, I was like, he just gets to do it. He gets to do it and he gets away with it, and I just have to cop
like
it.
the height of victim blaming. Like, I'm really surprised that happened. To like, for this
100%.
policeman to like prescribe all agency to you and just be like, yeah, well, you were streaming, so you deserve it. Like, that's actually ridiculous.
I stream, and that's how I found me. And what is that? And I had to explain it to him, and he said, well, why are you on there? And I'm like, well, it's actually it's a thing. And so I'm trying to explain to this police officer, but at the same time I'm like frantic, going, help me, or tell him to stop, or give him a warning, or let him know the repercussions if he continues, because I don't know what they are. And he basically just said, there is none, and you've caused it. You're the one to blame. And I was like, no.
Oh, man.
Did you get his
I don't know
name
if you
and
have.
stuff?
Yeah, I would report him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
definitely.
So the guy that I'm actually friends with, who is a police officer, he was in hospital at the time. That's why I didn't in the first place.
Fair enough.
But I said to him, I spoke to this officer, blah, blah, blah. And he basically just said, yeah, he's an old school cop and he speaks out his ass. And I was like, okay, well, he was clearly not useful. So yeah, but I do have his name and stuff. The magistrate was fully aware of the information that I was given to start with. And he said it wouldn't matter even if you did bring this person into your life. He said the things that he is saying and doing, because I had to take all the screenshots and the messages and the back and forth. I took all that with me, and he said it's just above and beyond, and it's not normal for somebody to want to reach out that much just because you've blocked them. So
Well,
it's the scariest side of streaming and gaming, because I made the assumption like, this guy's cool. He's a cool guy. I get along with him fine. And then when I started to get the like, hey, hold up, that's when I noticed like more and more things and was like, I'm out. I'm bailing. And then 6 months later, this is the fallback from it.
Yeah, I don't even think it's just a streaming entertaining thing. I think that's a thing for everybody to take note of how easy it can be if someone means you harm. Because like it wouldn't even take like someone online or someone that you didn't really know to do this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like the fact that one companies can collect this information and have your location at pretty much all times, which is a thing that with our smartphones is like normal these days. We just kind of come to accept the fact that companies know where we are at all times. It's like one of those trade-offs, you know. That snap maps, which I've heard about before, I don't really use Snapchat, but like it's terrifying the fact that anybody
when he
that
sent it to me, I was like, no way. It had my town, my street, my house number, and I'm like,
that's so scary.
That little picture there that I'm looking at, that is me in my lounge room right now, and he has sent that to me. And like, even on Facebook, I wasn't friends with him on Facebook, but he had messaged me like months and months ago, and then he said to me, "Why aren't you answering me?" And I'd seen it, and then was like, "Whoa," and left it. And then he messaged me back and said, I've seen that you've seen my message. Why aren't you replying? I'm like, oh, fuck. And was like, how do I get out of this? It's like, you were active 4 minutes ago. Like, just little information like that, I never picked up on or thought anything about it until it was being used against me in a bad way.
And that kind of like, it speaks to me like when people are they say to me, oh, like I want to keep things private, or I want to like have a persona online or like that, it makes me more willing to be like, yeah, man, go for your life.
Yeah,
because that kind of stuff, this kind of stuff can happen. You know, I remember I dropped into one girl's Twitch chat at one point, and I knew someone that knew her in real life. And her friend had been like, oh, you're streaming. That's cool. Why don't you check out this girl who streams? She's a friend of mine. I've watched her a couple of times. She's really cool. So I popped into her chat, and she was like, and I was like, oh, I actually got recommended you by a common friend of ours. And she was like, oh, who is it? And I was like, oh, look, I don't really want to say, because I don't know your stance on like privacy and all that kind of stuff. She was like, it doesn't matter. Just say it. And I was like, okay, like maybe I'll DM it to you, you know, because like I don't want to put a name of like one of your good friends in your like chat, because you never know who's in this chat.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Like you really, online is like one of those things you never know. You never know. Even
I took this guy in and was like, he's a nice guy. I have a joke with him, but he's nice, and you know, it was strictly like playing games. That's literally all it was. He was friends with like some of my other friends. And then some of them have started saying to me, he's gone weird. And I'm like, oh, I don't really know him that well. Like, I just play a game with him. Until a few things triggered me off, and I was like, run away. And I couldn't escape him for like 6 months on. It was rough. It was really rough. And like I said, if you're a teenager and somebody's harassing you, you've got no idea how to go into like certain settings on certain apps.
Oh yeah.
To block somebody or deactivate your own account, or you know, who to report that to. There's like, I can report something to Facebook and they're like, nah, we've let it slide because it doesn't hold enough evidence against this person or whatever. Like teenagers and stuff like that, they just let it slide. They let it go because they have no idea.
Licky, would you have any recommendations for how you think, because I'm sure you probably put thought into this, how could you have kept yourself more safe? Because
and I know that so many ways.
But like I know that, and I know that like I've seen a little bit in the bit of an issue with women in general, where it's like if there's like people get raped and killed or whatever like that, or women do, and police are like, well, do the best you can to keep you safe. Keep yourself safe. Don't walk through parks at night, you know, like all that kind of stuff. And then there's the other side of the debate where women are like, well, we shouldn't have to do these things. don't rape and kill us. So, and I'm not
I
trying
mean,
to, I'm not
don't
trying to
rape and
say,
kill us, no,
yeah, exactly.
but
I'm not trying to
definitely-
say don't, like, you have to go out of your way to protect yourself. But
Yeah.
like, how
you
do
can
you
definitely
think?
be cautious.
Being
of
cautious
things,
is a good
though.
thing, right?
Yeah, of
So,
course.
so
Of
how
course.
could you have been more cautious, or like, what kind of things would you recommend that someone who was starting this kind of thing could do? Do you have any ideas on
I
that?
think Facebook is really good for the fact if you just have people that you know. People that you know. Like I've got, I don't know, maybe 180 friend requests sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
No idea who they are. I've got mutual friends with them and stuff. No idea who they are, and I'm not adding them, so I don't really care about them. No offense. So Facebook is okay like that, like if you restrict it yourself. But I think if you get a nice guy that pops up and he's like, "Hey, want to meet for coffee?" A lot of women would be like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And then that's sort of letting the guard down. I think it just comes down to being aware of your surroundings. Well, it's not just online. Like you go for coffee, don't go to the house for coffee, like go out for coffee.
Mm.
So I think it's putting yourself into a certain situation off the bat, sort of getting to know somebody first. I think that all of the apps and stuff that are out there, like I had no idea about Snapchat Maps, none. And I'd been using it for so freaking long. Make sure that all of that stuff is turned off. Like I went through all of my apps and was like, okay, what's got my email showing, all my address showing, all my phone number, just to check that, if it's showing, get it off there. I think my biggest thing would be that if somebody is harassing or terrorizing, won't leave you alone just in general, or is following you and stuff like that, tell somebody else. Because the last thing you want is to think you've got it handled, you've got it covered. They'll just go away, and then God forbid something happen. I think it's speaking up about it is going to be your safest bet.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, and especially like you've brought up teenagers a couple of times. Like I
Yeah.
hope that anybody who finds themselves in a situation like that, especially if they're younger, that's something to take to your parents for sure. If you can have that kind of conversation with your parents, like if you guys have a good relationship, I know
Yeah.
everybody's got a different situation, but
Yeah.
hopefully you've got someone older that you can go and talk to. And then, if you need to get the police involved, then at least
I mean, tell a
you're not
teacher.
just-
If a teacher doesn't
yeah,
know,
tell a teacher.
a lot of them won't. They're going to sit down and they're going to figure out how to help your situation. They're not just going to go, I don't know, you're to blame.
We actually
But
have
that you
a
can help.
we have like an e-safety dude come out like every 6 months to a year to our school, so probably twice a year, and talk about how to be safe, like in terms of GPS stuff and location stuff. And then he also talks about like, because like sexting's huge now, talks about when you share this information, well, he talks to guys who receive pictures of underage girls who are their age. It's still child pornography. And then to like, if girls are sending this, it's like this always happens. It just ends up somewhere online, and it's like it's there forever.
Once you send it, it's out of your control.
That's true for guys sending it too. That's
yeah,
still
totally,
that's great.
definitely.
And it's not
And
a good
it
idea.
comes back all the time.
Yeah.
You can't be too careful about who you send dick pics to.
It's true. Woke won't stop sending me dick pics, man.
No, man, Fresh is my biggest fiend. I send it.
Put them in the Discord.
I've been putting them all over the place.
Yeah.
One day I'll just be like sending
got
all the
one from
links
every
where they are.
angle. One from every angle.
Every angle.
Every morning.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm joking about this.
Yeah.
One from every angle.
Why is
Says
that a
it
funny joke?
proudly too.
Get another dimensions, dude.
Yeah, I think
Every little freckle, dude.
You could do a time lapse version of
Wait, what? Are you cut out?
A time lapse.
A time lapse.
The time lapse, like a
a panorama.
Oh,
Slowly
yeah.
pan around.
Wow, I'm so sorry
Oh
for making
my
that joke.
gosh. Oh my gosh.
so. I think
No more.
if I can just chuck something in there real quick. I think a good takeaway from this thing that Licky shared is just be aware that anything that you do online, and I think Woke mentioned this too, somebody else could be seeing it, and you don't necessarily anticipate that. Anything that you send over the internet, on a phone, whatever, if you're doing things with things that are connected to the internet, you are exposed in some way, shape, or form, or at least you're risking it.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
just being aware of that is a great starting place.
I actually screenshot my conversations with him the day that I was having them.
Mm.
And the next day he had gone through and had, like with Discord, deleted his side of the messages so that it was just mine. And then tried to say like, oh, she made this part up. And I'm like,
Here
no,
it
I
is.
didn't.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I
Got
screenshot it.
But
Yeah.
he was under the impression he deleted it, it was gone. And I'm like, well, no, I was a little smarter than you. So
Mm.
That's
Interesting.
like the whole thing with like editing things or like fake tweets, because
Yeah.
people can literally just edit those things
Mm.
in because they can
Yeah.
write the messages themselves and just Photoshop it in easy as.
Yeah,
And
totally.
yeah, that's
So
just-
how can, man, it's such a hard one because like it's so hard to like combat that though, like for example, if you hadn't have screenshot those things,
Yeah.
and he was to be like, look, she messaged me like 20 times without me replying,
It's
or
my
like,
it's my
you know,
word against his.
yeah, it's your word against his.
Yeah.
And I've
Yeah.
seen so many times online where it's like, oh, here's the proof,
Mm.
look at these messages.
That happens often
Yeah.
with streamers. How's that one that we were looking at the other day work with
Yeah,
like
we were
a
look,
crazy
me
amount of
and
streamers?
me and Fresh and a couple of the guys were looking at one where it was like, this girl had like asked this guy basically to like donate her heaps of money, and the proof of the whole thing was in the messages that he had posted. All right. And but like, it always calls that into question. If you can't trust that kind of information, then is there any way to prove one side or the other?
Totally.
It's a hard fight to win when if there's no evidence, he said, she said.
Yeah.
And I didn't tell anybody straight off the bat because I was like, nobody was going to care that this guy's just being a weirdo to me. Like nobody's really going to care, are they? They probably didn't, even when I did tell them. But I thought my only option is radio, tell people what's happening, show people what is happening, and say, like, because he's telling me it's in my head, I'm the one that's caused this, and I'm like, am I? So getting that second opinion, third opinion, fourth opinion, and they're like, this guy is whack.
Yeah.
You need to sort some shit out. I was like, yeah, like my instincts were right, but I started to doubt myself. So, I mean, there's no way to fully protect yourself on the internet, really, if you're putting this out there with all these social medias, but opening up about it or talking to somebody about it or saying like, this is what is happening, I think opens it up for conversation and for them people to go, well, that's not right. Block him this way, or we'll ask this person how to block them, or what to do from here. So I think the conversation is more important.
Really important.
Yeah,
can you imagine
than,
how many young
trying to
girls
figure out
would
the
go
outcome.
like to that, like the first thing they would do is go to that policeman who you did, and they would say, and then he put all the blame back on them, and they'd be like, oh crap, oh man, I actually, this is my thing.
Yeah.
So many girls would like, well, and guys probably too, would
I was
get
just
really
like,
ashamed about that.
And then I was like,
Yeah.
really? And then I'm like, wait, no. Like,
It's really
you
good
are
that
an
you were
old
able to do
fart
that.
has no clue like what is happening. You've just asked me what is streaming and why do I do it and what does that even mean and why?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're not up to date with anything. And then I started to Google, like, is it illegal? And it's coming up, yes. Like, there's certain laws that they've got in place now. I think it's called revenge porn is a new law come out as well.
That's one the dude always talks about.
Yeah.
But I can imagine
it's a good thing to have. I mean, don't get me wrong.
definitely.
Stop sending your dick pics, woke. They could end up on the internet.
That's
but
true.
if you do it, then Fresh threatens to like.
That was
Yeah.
a joke, everyone. Just to clarify.
When we have a disagreement on a podcast, I'm gonna
coming
post
back to
them
me.
everywhere, guys.
See, now Fresh is gonna go to jail
because
because threatening revenge porn. Like there are laws
panoramic.
out there.
Oh no. My career is
Stand
over
straight to
before
me,
it's begun.
Fresh.
That just means your career will
But-
boost up, woke, and Fresh is going to jail.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but so like
If Tim
imagine,
can do it, you can do it.
especially if it's a young girl, especially who's particularly insecure about putting herself out there online, and also would be quite nervous to tell her parents, "Crap, I've been doing this stuff and this has happened."
Oh,
So
yeah, no,
I'll go to the
There's no
police,
way
and they'll be
that them
confidential. And then this policeman tells them all this stuff. Like that is one of the worst situations I could possibly think of. I'm so surprised that
There is a
happened.
hotline. There's a hotline.
Yeah.
So if in Google, if you search like what did I search? I don't know. It was something along. How do I stop somebody harassing me online? There's actually a phone number was the first thing that came up, and it's a legal team that deals with it that are also they're in with like local law enforcement and stuff like that. They have their own little squad now for the internet. It's not
e-safety
just
squad,
these old timers.
Yeah,
So
that is
call that number. Like the number
good.
is
100%.
useful. Yeah, absolutely.
That's cool.
And like, and this just kind of reiterates my point. I'm okay with our government starting to legislate our interactions online. You know, like there should be laws around this kind of stuff.
That's
And
material.
laws,
absolutely.
and
That's easier because it's material. You know, it's materialistic. It's something that's like it's something that's there and something that's happening. It's harder with ideas, I guess.
Well-
You're right. So very interesting. And I think definitely something that we need to take to heart and definitely be aware of. All
Definitely.
about who we're interacting with and what information we're sharing and
Yeah, just because they're friendly doesn't mean that they're normal.
damn straight.
Especially online, like
Just because I seem normal
I
doesn't
could
mean
be
I'm the
anybody
not the
that
most
I want
wackest kid
to
you've ever
be
met.
online. Maybe in real
100%.
life, and I'm
You don't
different.
seem normal.
So, yeah, absolutely. There's some
Yeah.
freaks out there.
100%.
I've met a couple. Met a couple.
Defs.
I know that it's getting on, and I know that Events wanted to talk about the Great Hack. Now, I don't know anything about this.
So-
Educate me, please.
yeah, please.
All right, so The Great Hack is a documentary that's on Netflix.
Should I also
that's
say
how-
before we get into it, if anyone needs to dip at any time, that's fine. We've been going for like 2 hours. We'll keep going as long as people are ready to talk. But if you need to go, you gotta go. That's
Dip
fine.
us and fall asleep. Or...
If you fall asleep on
I can see
camera,
it, I
that's
can
even
see it.
better. We'll
I'm pretty
keep
sure
that up
that's how
there.
you get like 2,000 views, right?
Exactly,
Also-
quality
Fall
content.
asleep on camera. People love
E-girl
I mean,
sleeping on
is
camera.
Is it allowed? Because like in
E-girl falls asleep.
TCs, like you're not allowed to stream sleeping.
We're here. It's
we're
okay.
talking.
We're
There's
talking. It's
content
fine.
here.
Yeah,
There's
it's fine.
Exactly.
That's right. You go to sleep. You get us the views, Kat.
Yeah.
Girl falls asleep on live podcast.
That is a title.
Sorry, Evets. Yeah, what were you saying?
You're good. You're good. So it's a documentary about the political manipulation that happened in 2016, and then also a little bit how it's happened in previous situations and since then. So Cambridge Analytica is a company that is responsible for scraping a lot of Facebook data, or I think actually buying data from Facebook, and collecting all this and getting all these data points and figuring out these algorithms to figure out how to use that to influence people and how they're going to vote. So it's the documentary itself it's about 2 hours long. It's not something that's going to make you feel good about the end, but it's really good information to have because it explains a little bit more about how they used that data to influence people and how few people they need to influence in order to make in order to sway elections. So like if you think about it, most elections are not landslide victories, right? There's like maybe a 5% margin between who got this much and who got this much. So they figured out that all they have to do is figure out how to sway the undecided people to whatever side they're working for, essentially. So in the United States, it was the Republicans. They pumped out a whole bunch of fake content onto social media platforms. They did a lot of phishing attacks with apps and things. So like your mom goes and clicks on this cool thing because it's gonna tell her what her birthstone means or some stupid stuff like that. Now they have not only your mom, but they also have everyone on your mom's friends list.
Wow.
All of that data is now accessible to them too. So by spear phishing and picking out these certain people who are vulnerable, they're able to gather information on people who think they are protected. So I wonder if that might be how some of Licky's information got into the hands of that person who's harassing her.
I'm really caught. Like I don't click on spammy ads. I don't open weird emails. I don't click birthstone things, stuff like that. But I feel like I've clicked on something that has stored that information for that
Well,
for somebody to find.
but the thing is, you don't even have to, is what I'm saying. Is
Mm.
like, if you are connected with other people, especially on social media,
Yeah.
the way it's set up, they're able to collect information on you because you're friends
Because
with
I'm
someone
on their
else.
friends list, right? I get you. That's
So,
creepy.
so extent to which that
Mm.
happens is something to be aware of.
Yeah.
And that's why I say, like, anything you do on the internet, someone could find, someone could watch. So just be aware of.
Yeah.
But the part that scares me about it most is the fact that there's not really any way that's been figured out to stop it yet.
Hmm.
So there are these companies who are aggregating all this data using it, and that's just one company. I'm sure there are others, but that's one that got caught, and they just closed up shop, and they just disappeared, and no one's seeing any repercussions for that. Like, the government here is still kind of trying to figure out what happened, but there's also some resistance from some people at the government to try and figure out what happened. So I I didn't rewatch it last night like I meant to, so I didn't really go into super great detail or anything, but I definitely think it's one of those things that will have awareness of what data is being collected, and not only that, but what it's actually being used for.
Yeah.
Because it's not just exclusive cases where, like, a stalker gets your info and takes it and does something terrible with it. It's on a much larger scale.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
it's
Yeah,
just
I
something
think
to keep your finger on the
after
pulse with.
after having you explain it, I think I've definitely heard of the podcast and heard several conversations about people who have seen it and conversing about it. It's definitely terrifying. It's a terrifying thought, that information that people can the information that people can glean from my, like, everyday online activities, and when I hit accept on some dumb Facebook game. Which I remember back in the day, I hit so many of them. I did like a purge a few years ago where I went back through and I was like I don't know if you guys remember, what was that, Farmville?
Farmville,
Farm?
yeah.
Farmville, and like, and when you go and it's like, oh, this is a Facebook app. Do you want to? It'll have access to these things, or it'll have access to your friends list. It'll have access to, like, all these kind of things, and you just go like, yeah, like, I want to play the game, yeah. When you're a kid, but then when you're an adult or like a little bit later in life, you go like, oh my god, I can't believe I said yes to all of this stuff. Like,
Yeah.
deactivate. Yeah, and I definitely think it pays to definitely purge some of those things every now and then, because the app of the moment, like that face app, for example. I'm sure, like, there's so many apps that have clauses, like, for example, Pokemon Go. Pokemon Go had, like, the reason that Niantic, the company behind that, got an amazing, like, it was worth so much money, was because that they had so much data from so many people across the world in terms of their location, in terms of access to their phone, all that kind of stuff. But,
Well,
like,
and for that, you get, like,
after
they
the
use your camera for it too.
yeah, exactly. They use your camera, so they have access to your camera. They have access to your microphone. They have access to so many things because of that app. And that's why they were worth so much. That company became worth so much money, is because they had all this information and all this data they were collecting from so many people's phones. But after the initial 6-month period where that was a fad and people were enjoying it, those apps, 90% of those apps are still installed on those people's phones.
Yeah.
And that company is still collecting, even though you're not using, unless you're, like, really savvy on making sure that it's not. And like, having a purge every now and then is definitely something that I do, like, yeah, like once every few months or whatever, where I'm like, well, I don't use that app anymore, delete, because you can always re-download it later, but that doesn't mean you need to have it active on your phone. Some face app that you got one time because at a party someone said it was funny to, like, see what you look like when you're old, doesn't mean you need to have that app on your phone for all time. Enjoy it for the party and then delete it when you get home.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, it's terrifying.
Yeah, I really want to watch this documentary now.
Yeah,
It's really good. It's really well done.
technology's,
It's
as
just
much
really
as it's,
scary.
I think we can all agree that as much as it's a great thing and I love doing, it also terrifies me because I'm just so out of control of it.
I actually seen I think it was last night or the night before, I signed up for it's like a software online. It's called MailChimp. It's to help my business. But when I signed up with it, I actually noticed that it said, did I just want to sign in with my Facebook? And when I was like, yeah, it saves me from filling out all the details. Signed in with Facebook, and then it said that it won't post to my wall or post to my friend's wall, but will. It was like I don't know. It wanted to take that information from my Facebook, and then I was like, ugh! So I didn't go that way. I went back and then was like, I'll just give you my email and my name, and we'll just sign in that way. But before I even realized, it would have had access to my friends list and all that. Like that's what it was telling me.
Yeah.
Did I want to just push OK? Because it was a sweet little sentence, and I was like, man, oh no.
Yeah.
And I backed out.
I've had an app before where it was like sign in with Facebook, and I was like, I don't really want to sign in with Facebook, and there was no option to sign in with something that wasn't like an account somewhere.
Wow.
You know, so
You
I
have
had
to, or you can't have
I
it.
was like, okay, no, I don't want to sign in with Facebook. What are my other options? Oh, sign in with Google. No, I don't want to give you my
Yeah,
Google,
it's the
like
same
my
thing.
business account. No, thank you.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to give you that. I don't want to give you that. You know, it was all things where it was like sign in and give us your information on these sites, and I was like, can I not just create an account with you? You know,
Yeah.
why did and I think that's something that's happening more and more is that like everything's connected. You know, you're using your Facebook to log into
Yeah.
everything, or everybody wants that information because Facebook, they want a slice of Facebook's pie or
I
whatever.
googled
Well, and even
cat collars, and then an hour later, I had cat collars and cat trackers popping up on my Facebook ads, and I'm like, I wasn't on Facebook when I looked at it. I was on
Bit of-
Google, and now it's just I
Yeah.
can't escape
Yeah.
cat collars.
well,
Just a
and
quick
that's
you go.
quick what?
Quick
Okay.
tangent. Just a quick wait. I just actually quick tangent. Has anybody been getting like a ads where it's like a cat with like a black cover over its face?
Dude, I posted that on Twitter. Is that where you're getting that from?
Oh wait, what? No,
Yeah.
well, I've seen it everywhere.
I tweeted that, yeah, and I was like, "No wish, I will not buy your cat torture device." Because
Yeah.
it's like a
Wait,
cat
I
with
did
like
see
a
it through.
like an S&M for a cat. I was like, "What is this?"
Yeah,
like
so weird.
this weird
Okay,
gimp cat device.
big tangent though. Big tangent.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Events,
Okay.
you were talking.
I was just gonna say something to be aware of too is like a lot of us are gamers and we play stuff on PC. Anytime that you are logged in to Facebook, anytime that you're logged into Twitter, it doesn't matter if you have an active browser window open. Anything that you do in that browser is still being tracked.
Wow,
So that's why
that's a bit
with
hectic.
with your Facebook, when like that random stuff that you were Googling popped up on Facebook, that's why that happens. It's set
Wow.
up to scrape that data. The same thing is true. Like if you use, I've switched over to Firefox
Yeah.
entirely now because they are more privacy centered. It's started as like an open source kind of thing, so like everybody was just working on it together, and then it's
Open
become a
source,
company, but
way.
they're still very privacy oriented.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you use Google Chrome, which most people, if you have an Android phone, are using Chrome all the time.
Mm.
If you use that, then anything that you do is being tracked by Google.
That's hectic.
So
No, yeah.
it's not. We were talking a little bit about how so many things are connected. So like I can go to my work computer, I can come home, and I can be on my computer here or on my Xbox, and all of those can have linked YouTube accounts.
Yeah.
Well, Google
Yeah.
owns YouTube.
Yeah.
So if
can
I
look at
do that, then
everything.
everything I do online is being tracked by Google because I'm signed in. So
Yeah.
that's just another one of those awareness. Like if you're okay with it, that's fine. But it's
Yeah.
not something that Google is really telling. It's not something
Yeah,
that
I reckon.
Facebook.
Yeah, they're not putting it as clear as they can in front of your face and saying, "Hey, by the way, you're linking this," you know, or you're not going somewhere and being like, "Hey, just so you know," like you can't go to some website and be like, "Oh, just so you know, you've got 3 Apple TVs, all of the data on your phone, all of the data on your Apple TVs, all of the data on your computer. Google has it all."
Yeah.
You know, like because you've logged into accounts on your computer, logged in, you know, and they need to do a lot more. As much as they say they're doing a lot more, they're trying to do the best they can. They're not doing enough at making it clear how much information they have, and this is why I'm like a massive advocate for open source things, which Misterevets just mentioned is because you can see all of the like codes and stuff, and people go in depth. There's people online that read open source programs and go, well, this is what it's doing, just so that like the masses can understand it. You
Hmm.
don't need to know like heaps of technical jargon. But the difference between that and like a private corporation like Facebook and like Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that is that their code is private. So you don't know what their program is doing when you put it on your phone unless they specifically tell you, which they don't. They make it as difficult as possible for you to know that you're sharing all of your information with them.
Not long ago, it was I think it was about maybe 6 months ago. I told Fresh as well. I just bought a new computer. They told me I had this security software already in it, rah, rah, rah. And I ended up getting like my Facebook, eBay, Gumtree hacked, and somebody had
Oh
car for sale, and people were buying the car and sending them money, which it was not coming to me, but it was on my account. They all $16,000 from my bank account that my bank ended up having to they got back, or I don't know, I got my money back after 48 days, I think it was.
Wow.
Yeah.
But it turned out that it was because
Jeez.
I had this new computer that I thought come with this software, and I was logged into all of these things only on that one computer, and that's what I ended up putting it down to. I'd had the browsers open, I hadn't actually logged out, so I could just click the button to go straight back in.
Yeah.
And I got hacked.
Wow.
Can't get hacked again now because I know better.
That's
But
hectic,
yeah,
though.
all of them things were just from that one computer, me logging into things.
Wow.
It's scary.
So, quick side note with Woke is talking about how these companies don't necessarily put all this out there, and they're not necessarily having our best interest in mind. Google, for a long time, their corporate code of conduct included the words "Don't be evil."
Don't be
And last year
evil.
Oh, yeah.
last year they changed it,
Really?
Yeah.
and now
That's
it's
crazy.
"Do the right thing," which
They should have left both.
Yeah.
yeah.
Don't be
I mean,
evil, do
Thing.
the right thing. I mean, it has a better.
So just a I don't know, a quick funny thing that
It's
Google
interesting.
changed just to
I
make
feel
it a
like
little bit more
every time I'm on a Google account, I can't possibly be always doing the right thing. Like, usually some of my actions are like morally neutral, I guess you'd say. So that's a weird one to put in there.
Oh, no, it's
No,
Google for
no.
like Google as a company.
Oh,
so
right.
they're-
Okay.
they're
I thought it was like my terms. I was like, man,
They
they're,
can't always
What's
be
they're
No,
going to
no.
ban me, man.
What's the word for it? Not manifesto. They're like company ethos.
Yeah,
Ethos?
right. Okay.
Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
do good. Or
Well,
like, do
that's-
the
Yeah.
right
Mission statement or whatever.
That's better, I think. That's like a positive approach
I mean,
rather than like an
yeah,
anti-negative
it's incredibly
approach.
vague.
It's still very, it's still a bit dumb. The last topic I wanted to bring up was maybe something. Hopefully, we can have some discourse about it. I think maybe there's different sides to it, but media as a tool to influence culture, and in particular, representing different people in culture. So, when I was like doing a little bit of research for this topic, a lot of I got really frustrated with a lot of things that I was seeing where. So in particular, there was like when games come out or something, and the specific example was this Battlefield game that came out, and there was like a girl in it, and then everyone was just like, "Can't have a girl in a World War II game. It's not realistic." And it just seemed really interesting to me that people needed that there needed to be a reason for this girl to be in the game, whereas there's not so much for guys, and there's plenty more examples that we can go through as well. But has anyone else ever thought about this?
Well, I know that obviously Fly and his like his little dedicating an entire year to bitch about Murdoch. It definitely came into contact with this as like people using like our games and our media and stuff to influence the conversation. And I think that it's definitely something that I think 90% of the stuff that we're talking about, it's all about awareness.
Yeah.
Like if you're aware of the fact that this company can do this, then you're less likely to get influenced by it. If you're aware of the fact that a company can target advertising towards the things that they hear on your phone or whatever, then you're less likely to be. Maybe you'll see it and be like, they're targeting ads at me. Good try. Fuck off. You know. But like. It's all about awareness. So if we can raise as much awareness as possible about the fact that these people have control over 90% of the stuff that we see on TV, like the Murdoch, like I don't know what you call it, Murdoch Industries or something. I don't know, the Murdoch Empire.
Yeah.
Then you're less likely to watch one thing on news and go, "Oh my God, Labor bad, Liberal good." You know?
Yeah.
And you're more likely to go, "Oh, that seems kind of fucked up. Maybe I'm going to Google it. Or maybe I'm going to look up like 20 different sources, 20 different takes on this, you know, which is 100% what you need to do these days is just, you see
Look
something
into
bad
it
online,
more.
go as in-depth as you possibly can.
Yeah.
Also make sure that when you're doing that, you're actually finding different stories, because a lot of different websites they'll share articles essentially, just because the more content they have, the more likely people are to come to their website. So just because you see the same information in different places doesn't necessarily mean that it's from different sources. So make sure that you check where that's coming from too.
Yeah,
100%, because it is definitely possible that you go, I'm going to look more in depth to this, and you go onto YouTube, 20 different conservative YouTube videos about it, you know, like, and you watch all 20 of them, and you're like, yes, conservative view, 100%, you know, like you've got to have a mix, you know.
I think it's like Kelsey just said, look at the credibility of, you know,
of the sites.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
from bright. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like, and I guess I was also thinking that there can be positive ways that we've totally seen increase of minorities in like being represented in different fields, and that's increased like the way that we view society and how things have gone from there.
Yeah, I like, once again, everything has like two sides to the coin, you know, like as much as I wanted to touch on that the topics that everybody wants to talk about and people want to talk about are the negatives, but there are very good sides to these things as well, you know, like the fact that they can influence people's opinions doesn't mean necessarily that they're always influencing it in a bad way. You know, I'm definitely sure that's a lot of the times it's a bad influence, but there's times when they're putting, for example, I mean, let's go movies, you know, and casting like the first woman or whatever, or casting the first black person in a lead role or whatever, you know, whatever it was. Those kind of steps and those kind of things are good for creating diversity and getting different messages out there and stuff like that. Doesn't always mean that they're influencing in a positive way, and it's scary to me that they have such influence, that anyone has such influence on the world.
It's pushing their limits to see how people react with it, or how far they can with it. Cat's turning into a freaking Eskimo. My cat. Great.
She's prepared. She's going to bed.
Just real quick.
What time is it for you, Kat? Like 4 a.m.?
My hoodie is my blanket.
2 a.m.
When it comes to looking up and verifying information, of the way you search for things also in the results you get. So if you're like, if you go online and you look up, I'm sorry if this is like a hot topic for anybody, if you look up vaccines cause autism, then you're probably going to find some things that vaccines cause autism. There's a lot of evidence that says that's not true. But if you're looking for the evidence that says it is true, you'll find it.
You're gonna find
it. That doesn't mean that it's necessarily legitimate. So my advice for that is be as generic as you can in your searches. So just look up vaccines or like maybe risk benefit vaccines or something like that, and you're more likely to end up on like a legitimate informational website rather than a website that is pushing for a cause, whether it's one way or the other. But just try and be as neutral as you can in your searches and get the best information.
It's also, I think, interesting how people, because I think it's really important to just look at where, because there are people who study whether vaccines cause autism, and there's like some really smart scientists who do stuff like that for a living. And I see similar with climate change as well, and or plenty of things, but and like economical issues, but and usually I try and have a look at where all of the experts would say things lie, and then go from there, because you can find opinion pieces that actually are really, really convincing. You can look at opinion pieces about the world being flat, and like they're incredibly convincing. It doesn't even matter if you've like got a like confirmation, if you've seen that like anywhere else. There's these like really, really good articles out there, but if we look at all of like what most of the scientific community would say about these
Fresh,
things.
do you believe the world is flat? Is that what you're trying to
I'm just saying, I reckon I
Coming
could
out.
Definitely.
I actually think I
Flatty.
could win a pro world being flat argument just based on these like
Ooh.
things. Like it's ridiculous. But so you have to look at where the leading experts what they
Go
say.
to the edge and take a picture, bring it back. I'll do it.
Like, I have a lot of opinions about things that I've heard or information that I've read.
Mm.
But I don't know the facts. Like, I'm not a scientist. I've never been to space. I'm going off what other people are saying. But if you bring me facts, or you've experienced that yourself and you give me your opinion, I'm gonna take that on board, and my opinion may change, or it may alter what I originally thought. Like, I'm always open to learning and hearing more things about things I have no idea about. But I'm still entitled to have that that's my opinion from what I've seen or what I've heard, or read online and stuff like that. But I like to find out more information about things. I don't know if the world's flat or round, but I'm sure you could win with your, you
What
think
are we
you've got some
saying
information
right
about this being flat.
like yeah.
on?
There's just so even
Yeah,
even
well,
like
yeah,
the dude who came out about the vaccines creating autism was like a pretty well renowned scientist, and he and then he got super discredited right away. But people like look at him and they're like, oh wow, he was a scientist, and he came out with this thing. But then you have to look at like the consensus of what the rest of the government, the rest of the scientific community says. Even the there was like this race realist dude who did the IQ studies and came out with I'm pretty sure it was a US thing anyway, but he was also he had like, maybe he even had a Nobel Prize, I don't know, or like he just was the dude who discovered DNA, I think, was the one who published this article. And but he stepped into like a completely different area of science and published an article, and then people are like, oh yeah, man, you don't know what you're talking about here. But so many people are like, oh wow, he's a scientist who's got this huge credentials, we better listen to everything he said.
I remember what you're talking about. And they showed that IQ tests are biased based on race. It's kind of the same thing as we were talking about with facial recognition stuff earlier, which created by white people, so it works better for people. It's the same kind of thing with the IQ test. It was created by certain people, so it works better for certain others. And that information was being used to show that there was a disparity in intelligence between different races. But it was discredited, obviously, because shit.
Like trying to
Wow.
Pardon my French.
Yeah, that's true. There you go.
But it was a really legitimate, like, big scientist who got.
Who did it?
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think he did get the Nobel Prize for sequencing DNA.
I think it was yeah, I think that's exactly it. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just because you're an expert in one thing does not make
An expert in everything. Yeah.
Yeah, eugenics. There you go. 4K says it was disproven, and so his field wasn't obviously eugenics. So he stepped into a different field, and you can't just like, it's hard to, but it's very hard because you're like, wow, this massive scientist has published this article. Yeah,
it's very hard, and I think that we're never gonna, like, as much as we can do our best to educate ourselves, we're never gonna like escape that like completely. The fact that there's always going to be people that we're always gonna have people in the world that read things that influence them in a certain way, and I think that we've just got to do our best. We've just got to hope that the majority of us do our best, and also try to talk to people about doing their best and what that actually entails. That it entails actually going a bit outside of your comfort zone in terms of time spent on a topic, and just being like, reading one article on one topic does not make you an expert. Like, you need to, in fact, reading 20 articles on the same topic does not make you an expert. Like,
True.
in fact, studying and becoming like a physicist and then doing a study on something that's outside of your field of expertise does not make you an expert,
Yeah.
like, so you've got to take everything with a grain of salt and just be
Exactly.
as careful as you can and
What
read as
makes
much
you an
as you can.
expert?
You can be an expert in your field, I guess. Just don't step into other ones. Well, you
Yeah.
can do that, but just
No, but even
study
then,
it first.
I'm saying that there's almost nothing.
Sorry, you cut
even
out.
if
You're saying there's nothing. What?
there's almost nothing that can make you an expert, even if it's your field. We are so limited in our technology and understanding of some things. Like, for example, let's take like food. Let's take like Nazis in Germany.
Every time.
Every time.
I'm just kidding. Sorry. That was funny. But
He totally
I knew
wasn't
I
kidding.
I knew it was. I knew it was
Back to
happening.
Nazis.
Sorry. But sorry. let's take food science, all right, and the studies that they're doing on food science. There's so much change in like how people live their lives that you can never guarantee that your studies are being accurate. For example, like so if you're saying we want to research the influence that cigarettes, this is not necessarily food, but cigarettes have on like cancer growth. Okay, you can't necessarily
Influence
say
of eating
that
cigarettes.
they develop cancer because of those cigarettes. Maybe there's like a huge percentage of people that have those cigarettes, and you do the best that you can to relate the percentages to cigarettes. But actually, maybe 90% of those people that you did a study on were actually also eating toast, and the carbon in the toast was
cigarettes and toast.
What a breakfast.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So,
Cigarettes on
Breakfast of
toast.
champions.
I'm giving extreme examples here because I want people to
This is true.
What's
Toast
see
is
the
fairly extreme.
extremes.
Guy.
I am an extreme guy, Kat.
Yeah.
I'm out here fighting the good fight.
I know what you're saying,
You know?
but do you think like if there's a general consensus within the scientific community that this is that cigarettes are bad for
I'm
your
saying
health?
If there's a general consensus, it's the best that we can do right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily mean that we shouldn't be following it.
Oh,
but
yeah,
it
true.
means that you still take it with a grain of salt. And when something comes along that says, hey, actually, maybe not, let's take a second look at it. You don't go, well, the general scientific community says.
Yeah, that's
the
true.
general consensus right now is no,
Yeah.
therefore you're discredited.
That's true.
And I've heard about that happening where the general scientific community agrees with one thing, and so when someone comes up and says, "Hey, I've thought of this new thing and I've got this new research here," they go, "No way,
Yeah.
no way,
But
you're wrong."
Yeah.
one of the
Yep.
really cool things about the internet, though, and we talked about how that kind of information can be spread faster. So it can either be spread and found to be discredited or disproven or whatever, and then that information can be spread. Or somebody can go against the grain, find something new, have a different idea, and then put it out there into the scientific and put it
Mhm.
out there into the public community, and people can pick it apart and see, is this right or is it not?
Mm.
Presumably other people who are in that field can look at it and say, is there anything to this? And that can
Yeah.
happen much faster now than ever could before. So
Yeah.
that's a good thing about technology.
Yeah, that's
No,
true.
yeah, 100%. Does anybody have anything else? Any other topics that they want to address before we?
I think we should hit
essentially
some
wrap things up?
questions up in the Discord.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
move to the Discord. Let's see
Yeah.
if anyone's hit us up with some
All right,
questions.
we got
Fly, do you have
four
anything to say?
questions in there.
Four
Fly?
questions.
Fly,
Fly?
we want to hear your voice. Cat wants to hear your
Hello?
voice.
Yeah, we want it. Hi.
Hello? Oh, Craig is.
Craig, sorry. Let's
creepy. We want it. Hi.
yeah. Let's re-clarify that. Cat wants to. Hi. Please speak to me, Fly. That was what she was saying.
Oh
my
fuck.
gosh. All right.
Let's hit up with this.
So first of all, Peanut asked, what's the biggest fear in our current social settings?
Current social setting.
I guess it means in terms of technology.
In terms of technology, I mean,
The old metadata retention is a bit of a fear.
I think that and misinformation.
Yeah, I think my biggest fear is being lied to or like being manipulated by somebody that I wasn't aware, like that I do my best to avoid it, but like, maybe someone manipulates the facts and manipulates the science and presents it to me in a way that means something that isn't actually true. That's probably my biggest fear.
Yeah, true.
Mine at the moment is like privacy issue, like privacy.
yeah.
Oh yeah, it would be.
You know,
Yeah. Makes sense.
thinking somebody's like my friend when really like I've got no idea who they are. So
Mm.
yeah, people hiding behind a persona, I think scary
Yeah.
thing for me at the moment.
Nice to meet you. I'm woke.
Yeah.
Nice Squidward.
All right, next question. Sladeo asked, what are your thoughts on reliance on media and the technology handicapping people's IRL social skills?
Handicapping.
So people being on I think because we have so much, I definitely think because we have so much media around, particularly for young people, they don't have a lot of interactions IRL that we would have had back in the day. So like rocking up to somebody's house and you just text them, you're out the front, rather than having to like go in and, or even home phones, like you don't have to call up someone's parents and have that awkward like, oh hey, Mr. and Mrs. Woke,
Oh my
da da da
god.
da da. Like that's
Yeah.
not a
That
thing.
reminds me of something. That reminds me when I went to visit my friends in Germany. And obviously my phone doesn't work in Germany because it's New Zealand SIM card and everything. So
Mhm.
I had to literally use a home phone to
Oh,
call,
gosh.
my mates
you
to see if
okay?
they're free. And it was awful. I felt so weird. I'm like, hi, this is Kat. Is my mate home, asking his mum. Like
Yeah, the
that
awkwardness.
that is
Imagine.
the weirdest thing. And like it used to be such a normality. Like
Yeah.
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 We had to do that all
I-
the time.
I had to do that when I was
Yeah.
growing up. Be like, hey, I want to talk to my girlfriend.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
she there? And I'm like, I want to talk to this person. And their
Yeah.
mum's like, what? Who are you?
How does she know
Well-
you? Where did you meet?
Yeah.
And even after you got a cell phone, like maybe you were the first in your friend group to do it, so you still had to call
Yeah.
landline to talk
Yeah.
to them. And
Yeah.
now it's just not a thing.
No.
Everybody's
And,
got
like-
their
I
own
don't
personal
anymore.
line.
Kids tend to
Oh
hang
my
out
God.
online
You-
heaps
people-
after school and that as well.
Yeah.
People used to be able to talk on the same line. Like I could pick up the phone while somebody else was on the phone, and I could listen to.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. I remember
I
that.
remember that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
good.
So quite often places of business still have landlines. So so like the place that I work has a landline. So when you call the restaurant, you're calling the landline, and we've got 3 or 4 phones. You pick up the phone and you listen to the conversation. It's their landline.
Goes
It's
through.
weird. But
Yeah.
businesses are a little bit behind in that regard, that they don't have mobiles. It's not a mobile you're calling the landline. It's weird.
Mm.
How does
something
a
else-
business have a mobile?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, they don't, I think it's more a thing that they don't,
Yeah.
like because
More of
they're
a thing that what?
and they don't need a mobile. They can
Yeah.
have a
Yeah.
landline because they don't
Yeah.
move. A business is in one place, and
Yeah.
like so. However, just on the question, also there's like the fact of like, do you guys ever do that thing where you go out with your friends and me and my friends
No.
are pretty good with it, but you put your phones straight up no.
No.
No,
Put
my
your
phone never
phones
leaves
in
When
the
you go out with your
hand.
friends,
in the
no.
middle of the table, and everybody puts their phones in the middle of the table, and the first person to touch their phone,
Yeah.
unless it's agreed upon that we're all picking up our phones, is like has to buy a round of drinks or something like that.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever done that?
I've
Yeah.
never
Well, I
done that.
haven't,
That
but I
sounds
kind of
good.
want to
Taste
now.
the meal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the idea behind it is, if you've got your phone in your pocket, when your phone goes off, you pull it out and you see who you got a message from. But you're there enjoying the social interaction in real life with your friends. Therefore, put your phones to the side and enjoy the social connection for
Yeah.
what it is, and enjoy your time. And I think that's definitely a negative thing that we've got out of technology, is that we tend to get distracted from what's going on in front of us right now because of our phone.
Even like
Oh,
when I have like work meetings, you rock up, and the time when you would usually be like, I don't know, like chatting and maybe even having like new ideas about the workplace
You're
and
on your
whatever,
phone.
everyone's just like,
Yeah.
and like, and I'm doing it too, so I can't really talk. But totally, I see that as everyone's just super
Well,
dependent.
it's the
on
same
these
thing
days.
in our meetings or little while ago in our current like management meetings or whatever like that. It was like room, you put to the side, because we're there to be with each other. We're there to absorb the information, to take notes, to interact, to offer opinions. And if you've got your phone on you, or you're checking your phone, or you're worried about your phone, or whatever, so phone's at the door.
Yeah.
I was just thinking a couple of days ago actually about how like it used to be a social etiquette thing. It was rude to look at your watch, because
Mm.
what you're doing when you're doing that is insinuating that I've got somewhere else to be that's
Yeah.
more
What
important than
do.
what's going on right now.
Yeah.
And it's
Time's
weird because
ticking away.
that kind of fell out of practice, and like people stopped carrying watches as much, and now
Mm.
it's kind
Yeah.
of back
Well,
because
because
it's
we've got
like
these
the
Apple
equivalent of
Watches and
looking
that.
at your phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With your phone.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it just, I
100%.
thought it was interesting that it's kind of come full circle. Like looking at your watch is rude.
Do you think it's more rude to look at your watch or your phone while someone's talking to you?
I think watch, but only
Watch.
because of the connotation
Yeah.
associated with it. So
Yeah,
when
true.
you see
Yeah,
you
I
look at their
agree.
watch, you go, they're wondering about the time, and
Yeah.
they're wondering about the time that it's taking. Whereas if you
Will
look at your
she
phone, you're like,
hurry up? I've got to
maybe
get.
these days you're kind of like, maybe it just vibrated and they just had a quick peek at it. You
Yeah,
know,
true.
you're not
Yeah.
necessarily looking at the clock on the phone, so
It's
there's
true.
less of a connotation between it being a negative. Where, yeah,
Well
I didn't
reasoned.
realize how much I looked at my phone until I like deleted all of my socials and
Yeah.
have been like not off the grid, but like gone for like the last month. My phone's not in my hand. I can leave my phone at home. But there was one day where I had to change my car tire, and I'm like, shit, I don't have a wheel brace. So I walked into the nearest it's like a little corner shop, and I was like, can I borrow your phone? And then I was like, I don't even know their phone number because I don't have my phone, so it doesn't even matter. And then I'm like, do you have a wheel brace? And then they charged me $20 to freaking borrow it. But
Oh.
yeah, like because I didn't have my phone with me, I don't know, my phone's not constantly connected in my hand now, so I'm not getting back to anybody anytime soon. Like whereas before I was on the ball, the phone was probably already in my hand, in my face.
yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, no, I did you find when you first started, or when you've tried to like remove yourself a little bit, that you were checking your phone even though there weren't notifications?
Not this time, because I was like, I didn't want to pick it up and have something
Okay.
nasty sitting there.
Yeah.
But I had done it previously, and I was like, I didn't last very long because I was, even though the notifications were shitty, they were like, somebody just posted something on buy, swap, sell. It's something, it's not even relevant to me, and I'm like, oh, and I'd still look. I didn't need that information, didn't need to care about it, but the fact that it was there and it was like I had the little red thing, the little red notification, made me feel like, oh, hang on, I have to have a look at that.
Have to click on it.
Push that button. In case it's something for me.
I recently stepped down from management position, and I was going from getting like having to read and respond to like 25, 50 emails a day to almost zero, like pretty much overnight. And and so what I found was I was so used to going like, oh my god, I need to this is important, I've got to be on the ball, this is my job, and picking it up, that I was still picking it up and turning it over and being like, oh, there's like a couple of notifications, and like that's it, sweet, yeah, cool, put it down, you know. But I was checking it so frequently that quite often I would check it and be like, oh, there's nothing there.
When I started my business, I was like that. I was like, waiting for it to come through, like, oh, I'm responding straight away. But then I had to realize, like, no, don't respond straight away. Let them know that you'll get back to them within the next 24 hours. So now I wait until, I don't know, maybe like an hour or so before bed, and I'll check my emails and stuff. And if I have time to respond, then I'll respond. But otherwise, they can wait until the next day. I'm not constantly on the ball, because otherwise I'm forever checking it.
No, 100%.
So I limit it, or like put a little time slot in and go, rightio, like that's my time slot for this, and just leave it at that.
It's good setting time frames.
Yeah.
For sure. Next question.
Yeah, next question.
Peanut asked another one. Is technology prohibiting us from progressing more in the right direction, and should we go more rural? I feel like that's pretty like close. Like, what's the negatives?
I feel like that was our first question.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
You know, like I feel like we've touched on that the whole time. And I think.
Yeah.
I think we covered that. That's good.
Agree that like it's a positive.
There's positives and negatives, but yeah.
Yeah.
And then Rexy asks, will humans ever be allowed to be cyborgs, like every part?
I think yes.
Yes.
I mean, we're already on our way there.
Yeah, we're on our way. Isn't Elon Musk like
a cyborg?
No,
I don't
no,
know.
he's a lizard. That's
He's a wizard.
Possibly.
Yes.
Is it
No,
the,
not a
is it
wizard,
in the
lizard.
process?
Oh, a
of
lizard.
someone-
Oh,
He's a wizard.
Isn't that
Wizard.
isn't that Mark Zuckerberg? Isn't he
They
the
all
lizard?
are.
He
They're
is
all
a
lizards.
Like,
people.
have you not seen him like photoshopped as a lizard?
No, I
He's
haven't.
literally like he,
He looks the
doesn't
same.
come from monkeys. He comes from lizards, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
honestly.
Well. Anyway, besides their heritage,
Lizard.
besides their animal kingdom lineage, he's at the moment he's working on something where it like connects to your like neurons in your brain.
You're a
and
link.
it's
Yeah,
gonna-
4K keep saying it.
Oh, 4K what?
Neuralink.
Elon's building it now. It's called Neuralink. There you go. Like that's the next step, and we're only gonna keep on progressing. And like there's obviously already like cybernetic limbs and stuff like that people can get
Yeah,
that like
prosthetics and stuff.
prosthetics and stuff
Yeah.
that they're working on getting it influenced by your brain signals and stuff like that. So
The one I
know, we're
find
getting there.
crazy is when like the people can't speak, but the computer speaks for them. Like that's
Yeah.
basically part of it as well. Like
Stephen
mash
Hawking.
it all together from all bits and pieces, and you've got a cyborg.
Yeah.
it's crazy, and like we're on our way, definitely.
yeah,
And I
for
think
sure.
one day, for sure, 100%, we're gonna have somebody that is a cyborg, like 100% a cyborg. Rexy,
But
just in case you're curious, Rexy, it's happening.
is
They're
6 million
coming.
is $6 million enough for that anymore? It was in the 80s. No. Oh, this joke just fell. $6 million.
Sorry.
$6 million man. That is
Like a
too.
Terminator joke?
That is
I don't
too
know.
old for us. Too
Yeah,
old.
sorry, geez, the 80s, mate. I was born in the 90s.
So was I.
Yeah,
I
so was
mean, I don't know.
Hey, Yvette seems
Do you
more
wanna do
wise and
now,
more in
now that it's
touch.
fallen flat, do you explain the joke?
Have you seen the $6 million man? I get it now that it's...
No, I have not seen
Oh,
that. Is it a
okay.
movie?
Okay. Still okay. So the $6 million man was like he got accident and then he was gonna die, but the government like built him like we have the technology, we can rebuild him better, stronger, faster, and they did, and he was a cyborg,
$6 million
and that's
man.
Cheeky.
like it was a TV show, I think, TV show or movie,
Mo-
one of
movie?
two.
Was
or-
it a movie? Oh, I thought it was a movie.
I don't know.
Either
Very
way.
cheeky. Oh
anyway.
my god, that's so
He got it.
Yeah.
All right, I think we
Jokes
should.
are always better after you explain them.
definitely.
Once you explain it. So good.
Is there any more questions?
No, that's it. I think we
No,
should
that's
beer
it.
review.
Okay, all right, yeah, straight into.
Wait, what are we gonna do, Wake?
We're gonna beer review.
Well,
Great
I don't.
job. That was not bad.
Not bad.
I've noticed that Fly is actually just straight up giving up.
Always, yeah, I know.
I hate
He-
you
we wake you
guys.
back up.
Yeah.
Every
He just-
time.
He honestly doesn't even bother anymore.
Nah,
because,
he doesn't even care.
So disappointing.
I think it's his internet. He's like 5 seconds behind everyone.
Yeah.
Alright,
Just my
curious-
brain.
I started,
I'm
so I'm
curious to
gonna
hear
go
about
first.
cats.
So if you guys look
Yeah.
at the document, if you guys look at the document, we've got your appearance out of 2, taste out of 10, and drinkability out of 8. So
Mhm.
appearance, I love the fact. Oh, sorry, click that on my mic just then. Appearance, I love the fact that there's like a little graphic. I'm a bit of an adventurer myself, and when I see that, I go, oh man, I would love to climb a mountain, even though I probably never will. And every single bottle in
Cool,
the shop,
climb a
like this caught the Wayward Brewing Company. It caught my eye when I walked in. When I walked in the bottle, I was like, oh, what's that? I'm so interested because every single one of their range had like a different adventure. Like there was like a sailing one, there was like a camping one, there was a climbing mountains one. There was all these different graphics that just really caught my eye. So I'm going to give it definitely a 1 for that. In terms of appearance, I poured a little bit into my glass, which I drank, so I can't actually show you it on stream, but it looked exactly like an IPA should. It was like not cloudy, but it was like a little bit cloudy. It was pale. It was golden. So IPA, I'm going to give it a 2 out of 2 for appearance. In terms of taste, look, it was good. I'm kind of getting to the point with IPAs where I've like drunk so many of them that like it really takes something special for an
Yeah.
IPA to really stand
Yeah,
out to
I
me
agree.
in terms of taste. So I feel like the more that I drink, the lower that my rating gets because like
Yeah.
the first one I drank, I was like, wow, this IPA is incredible. But now I'm just kind of like, yeah, it's a standard IPA, you know, it's nothing special. It was just kind of like, it was tasty, but like it wasn't amazing, you know? So I'm going to give it, for taste, I'm going to give it like a 7 out of 10, 6 out of 10 actually.
Mhm.
Because it was good. It definitely didn't taste bad. I'd be surprised if it did. Drinkability, I'm going to give it probably a 4. No, a 5 out of 10. 5 out of 8. No, a 4 out of 8. Just because I like, as much as it was really good, and I could drink it again, I wouldn't necessarily drink it again because I've tasted so many things that are so much better than it that it's so far down my list of cartons of beers that I would buy
Fair enough.
that I probably wouldn't drink a lot of it.
12 out of 20. Yeah, not bad, but not good.
Yeah, not great, but I definitely expect to see my scores going low because I've drunk so many IPAs. Yeah. Anyway, that's my review of the Wayward Brewing Company IPA.
All right, Fly, you're next. Show us that beautiful voice.
So
Wait, what about me?
No,
Yeah,
skipped.
I mean, you're
Yeah,
coming.
what do you get?
I've got I've got diode. I don't know how to say
Dihydrogen
it.
monoxide.
Dihydrogen monoxide.
Monoxide.
do a
There you
yogurt
go.
review.
All right.
Hydrogen molecule.
Well, it hasn't like made me wake up, so that's a good thing. I'm not vomiting. That's also a good thing. I'm not turning blue or green. That's great. That's
Thank
great.
God.
So
How's the appearance?
So looking at appearance, it's in a blue bottle, so it's clear. It's very
fancy.
clear. No
Surprised
flaky
it didn't
bits or
say blue
anything
then.
in it. Nothing suspicious in there. Give that a 2 out of 2. Definitely.
Cool.
Taste. Yikes, that's a 0 for me.
They say that's a good thing. I feel like with water, it's reversed. If it's a 0 out of 10, it's good because you're not supposed
Depends
to be
when
able
I
to taste
drink
water.
it, right? A nice cold cup of water in the morning, 10 out of 10. But right now, it's like, it's a 0 for me.
All right, 0.
Drinkability, definitely at 8 out of 8. Would drink it 24/7 all the time. Definitely advised by scientists. So
I feel like 10 out of 20 is the perfect score for water.
Yep.
True.
True. All right, Fly. What do you got for us, boy?
Okay, so I was super excited for this at the beginning, but I've honestly never been so disappointed in my life by anything.
Man.
The Pangea
Oh.
IPA, yeah, this
Oh.
was honestly shit.
I'm sad to hear that.
I know. I'm
You were
sad
so
to hear
excited.
it
You
as
were
well.
ready to crack it
I was so
anyone.
excited because like they have a normal IPA, which is like one of the best beers I've ever had, and then this one costs twice as much, so I was like, it's gonna be good, and it was awful. I'd say appearance, I'm gonna give it a 0 because it's like a $15 can and it looks like this, and it's like a green beer, which is not right in the slightest. So 0. I'm gonna give it a taste. I'm gonna give it a 2 because it tasted like nothing. It was like water, a bit like off, and there was a little bit of carbonation and alcohol there. Awful. And then drinkability, like 4. It was just so bad. I'm so disappointed. I was so cut.
Did you get any of those numbers, Mike? I missed them.
No,
The only
I
reason I
completely
can't do-
missed those numbers. Do you want to run us
Well,
through
I
it
can
again?
do it.
Sorry.
So
It's like
appearance 0,
Yep.
fat 0, taste 2, and then
Wow.
drinkability.
Beautiful. 6 out of 20.
I
Ooh,
think
that's
that's actually the lowest.
that's our lowest
Everybody
review.
quiet. It's
what?
bad.
Lowest
That
review.
cider I had was pretty down there, but I think that's even worse than that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that definitely. 6 is
Yeah, it
by
was.
far our
Alright.
lowest.
Okay, you heard it here first, guys. Don't
Modus
Unless
Pangea.
they want to
Awful.
sponsor us.
Yeah.
Just have the IPA.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
much better.
You can sponsor us and we'll
Um,
kick Fly off. We'll do it. We'll do it.
We'll do it. You can have
Okay.
Modus.
Hashtag sell out.
Right above me.
Wait, is Licky gonna do the lemonade?
Yeah. Licky,
Yeah, yeah.
yes.
Red lemonade. Okay, so for appearance, I really like this can, but I don't like that it has limes on it when it's lemonade.
Yeah, what the hell? How do you know they're
This is
limes?
weird.
They're green.
That's whack.
Well, they're green.
Oh
Yeah,
my
no,
gosh.
that's weird.
Maybe they're just not ripe yet.
It's very regal looking.
I don't know.
Ah.
But I do like that it says this ain't just any lemonade. This is Kirk's, as classic as your favorite pair of thongs, and it has a thong.
Oh,
Oh,
very
that's pretty good. That's quite good.
Australia,
I knew
mate.
that
Good
song.
meme.
Represent.
Good meme.
It's very clear and very bubbly. So I think it's a 2 out of 2 for appearance.
Yeah,
2
good
out of
call.
2.
Good call.
Nice.
Taste,
Oh,
it
God.
wasn't too sweet and it wasn't too bubbly, and I
Didn't you
didn't
just
burp.
say it was very bubbly?
Not
Yeah,
too
that's
bubbly
too
though.
appearance.
Very bubbly, but not
Appearance.
too
Not too
bubbly.
bubbly.
Bubbly
Not
appearance.
over the top.
There's
Bubbly
bubbles
taste.
in there.
There's-
All right, jeez.
It's not.
Let her finish her review.
You know when you drink a drink and it's like so bubbly.
I
that
don't
it's
like your review of the
really
lemonade.
So for taste, I would give it like a 9.
Okay, nice.
Drinkability. Well, I didn't burp and I could swallow it really easy, so I'm gonna give it.
Very important.
I'm
Very
gonna give
important.
it like an 8. I'll give it an 8.
Oh gosh,
I
someone.
did get it. It was great.
Jeez. So we've got what, a 19 out of 20 for this Coast Lemonade. Guys, get on it.
Get on this. Get on this. Get
Seriously, I'm
on
going
this
out
Kirk's
tomorrow.
lemonade.
I'm buying a 10-pack.
Sponsor Fresh and Woke. There you go.
Straight on it,
Sponsor us,
straight on it.
Kirks. Come on in, Kirks.
And
was good.
Yvette's, you drank some coffee.
I did. It came from a bag. It was pretty good. It was
What's the
brown.
brand?
It's good.
Was brown. 20 out of 20.
I think it's if I remember right, it's the Meyer brand, which is like Midwest United States version of Walmart, basically. Like it's just a big grocery store.
Right.
And I think I don't remember. I think that was the hazelnut one. It was pretty good. If you can find it, it's definitely worth the like $4 for the half-pound bag I got on sale or whatever it was. So yeah, coffee.
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 Yeah.
Worth good
for
value out of
appearance,
20.
Appearance, I'd say 2 out of 2. It's a very nice, pleasant brown.
Nice.
And then for
Pleasant
taste,
brown.
well, I did have to add milk to it, so I would probably give it like that's out of 10 taste,
Yep.
right?
Oh.
Let's say like a 7.
Oh, okay.
And then
I see.
as far as drinkability, it's gone. So we'll go ahead and slap an 8 on that.
Whoa, 8, well, 15, 16, 17.
Not
17.
quite as good as Kirk's, but it's up
Yeah.
there.
No.
It's up there. I love it. I love it. And
fair
fresh,
enough.
mate. You got some feral Biggie juice.
oh,
IPA,
yeah.
let-
Okay, so Biggie Juice. I actually don't really like the can. It's got like a bit of a creepy hog on there. It's a little bit
Yeah.
too creepy for me. I'll probably have nightmares tonight. So, I don't love the can, but I really, really like the actual. Like I've only ever drank it off tap before. I don't think I've got a can. So I really like the presentation. It's quite cloudy, which I like, but also nice and golden. So I'll give it a 1 out of 2 because the can sucks, but the actual beer looks good.
Pineapple juice almost.
Yeah. Exactly. Taste, I go 10 out of 10 because this is like I said before, top 3. It's quite a heavy. Well, I guess I should get to that in drinkability, but I really like the citrusy kind of heavy IPA. So I really, really enjoy this IPA. One of my faves, definitely. But I think I'll go with a 7 out of 8 for drinkability because it is a bit heavy. I could drink them all night, but some people with, lesser stomachs probably couldn't. So what's that? 18?
Weren't
18?
you
I think it's
hyping
18.
that beer up before the stream, like at the
Oh.
start
Well,
of
I
the
mean,
stream?
I'm realistic though, 18 out of 20. I'm no, big Kirk's fan over here, big water fan,
I mean, that's it. That is
You
a
were
pretty
like,
good.
get ready for bomb beer review.
Oh, I mean,
Hype.
that is a
18
pretty
out of
good
20
rating.
I think that's the highest rating I've given. Probably.
Yeah,
For an
that's
actual
a-
beer, probably.
I'm
yeah.
a critic, I'm a professional. You gotta listen to me. You want to know how you become a professional in the field? It's you drink a lot of beer.
Experience.
Experience, exactly. But anyway, thanks so much for coming, guys. It's been lovely
Thanks for
as
having-
always.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
Repeat
Yeah,
offenders. I think
awesome.
we should go one by one. Just give a shout out to your channel / any media that you have. Starting with Fly, because I know he's got a lot of social media. Go Fly.
Oh yeah, so much social media. I have nothing.
I
Minecraft.
have nothing.
What's your
Oh,
Minecraft
yeah.
username?
Minecraft.
My-
Go
yeah.
sub
Minecraft.
to the Port Dog. Let's do something
yeah.
like that, and then come
Yep.
play in the Minecraft server.
Good call.
If you go do that, you could probably make him stream for longer as well, because he's doing a
Oh.
charity stream as
Is he
well.
still going?
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
still going.
Wow.
Every single time someone donates or something, he
Yeah,
has to go for
everyone
longer.
Yeah.
subscribe to Jordan so he's to keep
Yeah.
going.
That's so good. Yep, get on it.
and play
Yeah.
Minecraft.
He'll love you all and hate
Kill him with subs.
Oh yeah.
Um,
What's your Minecraft name?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, it was Tokyo Sexwell.
Oh, it changed. Okay.
Recently changed
Oh,
via-
the TOS. What are we doing?
Wow.
Wait.
That's an actual man. It's not TOS. It's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
South
right. Fair
African
enough. Yeah, I just
politician.
wanted to hear you say Tokyo Sex. Well, that's fine. We can move on. Should we go to Licky in the
Coffee,
middle there?
Angel
Yeah,
Solo.
Licky, do you want to shout yourself out or whatever? How can we
so
get in contact or follow
I
you
am-
if you want us to?
I am back on Twitch as of like now. So my first stream in a while. I will be back tomorrow night on Twitch. I don't have any other socials up at the moment, but you can definitely pop over to my channel and come and hang out tomorrow night at about 8 o'clock.
Awesome.
What time
Sweet.
zone is that?
Yeah, is that Australian Eastern Standard Time?
Yeah,
Yep,
Australian.
Australian
yeah.
AEST.
Yeah.
8 p.m.
correct.
Cool. Kat,
Hi.
sorry, I actually thought your cam had frozen then.
No, I was reading something. Sorry, my bad.
Really,
Hello.
you were kind of like I was tracking your eyesight, and it seemed to be going down
Just
to the top left of the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Okay, thanks for
What?
tracking my eyeballs.
That's tracking your eyeball.
Dude,
That's
that's a
bit
privacy
stalkery,
ape. What?
dude. What are you gonna
Jesus.
do next? Try and add me on Snapchat to get my location?
Yeah, probably.
Anyways,
Yeah, I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
He'll do it.
anyways, I don't really go on social media at all. I just have like, yeah, I don't really do that. I go on Twitter, but I don't give out my Twitter like that. Like only to friends, stuff like that. So I didn't do that. Just Twitch really. So just my username up there. If you wanna give me a follow, great. I'll stream once a month.
Good chat. Good chat. Evets, do you want to shout yourself out at all?
Well, I've got a big concert coming up at the Sydney Opera House, so if anybody wants to come check me out playing my clarinet,
Look
Can I
at
have
him.
a VIP ticket?
Yeah, please.
Wait,
Absolutely.
is
It's all up.
Backstage
aren't you
pass.
awful though? Like, aren't you like really bad?
hey, now I've been practicing a lot, and I got this gig, and I've been working with a couple of
Are you
friends. We're
gonna
gonna-
dress up in a leotard and stuff and dance around?
Yep, absolutely. It wouldn't be a performance without that, and we're gonna play the final countdown. So
You
it's
get discounts. Friend
free
discounts.
tickets for everybody who's
Free
a
tickets for
friend.
everybody.
Yes.
You just gotta turn up.
Nice.
But no, I mean, in all seriousness, if you want to catch me, you just have to watch this podcast every 2 weeks because this is the only place I
Yeah, it's
am.
true. He's
Nice.
there.
He's there. And as always, I've been. You can catch me at Mr. Woke TV on Twitch, on Twitter, and on Instagram. If you want some cheeky pics. And yeah, I'm going to probably be streaming straight away after like in like 10 minutes or so, just playing some Fortnite. And yeah, so tune in, come and say hi. Appreciate my gingerness. And yeah,
Oh
we've also
my
got
God.
Fresh up here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm over here for you. But if you want to catch the podcast offline, it's on pretty much every podcast platform. Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google, everything. It's also on YouTube, Fresh Plays Live YouTube. So you can do that if you would like. But thank you so much, guys, for joining us. It's been lovely. Episode 7 of the Freshly Awoken podcast. See you all soon.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
That's all right. Thanks for
Bye,
tuning in.
everybody.
Ciao.